Everybody, welcome to another Tom Bilyeu Show Live. We have a very special guest today, boys and girls. We are joined by the Troll King, Michael Malice. He is in the house. He's here because he has a very special graphic novel that he's put together. He's told me a lot about. I've seen pages from it. I am very excited that this man has joined the ranks of people writing in that art form, which you guys know I'm obsessed with. I bring up very frequently my own, so I couldn't be more excited to have you, man. Thank you for joining us today.
I could be more excited if it was later in the day.
Yes, you've made that clear, Mr. Malice. This is early.
The first time I think in 20 years that I've been awake this early. I'm not kidding at all. I happen to be coherent. So people say I can do podcasts in my sleep. Let's find out if that's true.
We shall see, boys and girls. All right, we're also going to drag him into all of our conversations around Iran and all the stuff that's happening in the world. And starting with the ceasefire, which is hanging on by a thread after Israel bombed Lebanon. Trump posts an unhinged rant aimed at former supporters such as Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens. Someone hacked a Chinese database and stole 10 petabytes of largely classified information. We'll see what they do with that. It is for sale on the dark web right now, so if we have any bidders, make sure you head over and take a look. A disgruntled employee burned a massive distribution center down because his employer wouldn't pay him more money. And Ro Khanna, friend of the pod, has surpassed Nancy Pelosi as the most effective traitor in Congress. However, did he do it? We're going to talk about all of that and more. Michael, I really am excited to have you. For longtime viewers of my show, they will know that we have done things before. Been on your show, you've been on mine. You've done stand-up comedy, which may be something that my audience doesn't know about you.
You were the first one to see my set.
I did. And to say that it was comedy as terrorism, I thought was a very active description.
That's my love language.
Well said.
Terror.
Well,
I'm not
well
even
said.
kidding.
So that's who we've invited on the show today. Now, by way of quick tease, give them a little bit on the book, which has a very unusual setup.
Unwantedbook.com is the URL. We're already at the stretch goal, so I'm very excited about that. This is a book I started writing in 2000 when I was friends with Harvey Pekar. I became friends with Harvey Pekar of American Splendor fame because of this project. It's about a band from the 80s. It's a real-life Spinal Tap, and what Harvey and graphic novels do that other projects really can't is take fun stories that are stranger than fiction and put them into the reader's hands. And I think there's such a long history of that alternative graphic novel scene, Peter Bagg, Black Hole, and people like that. It's just, I'm really excited to be able to walk in the footsteps of these giants.
No, it's exciting. So for those of you, if you only know Michael as an online personality, he's been writing books for a very long time, extraordinary books, I might add. And so to see you now turn that on to the graphic novel scene is extraordinary. I am a massive collector of graphic novels because as an art form, I think it's really extraordinary. And so, yeah, I'm very interested in this. We'll talk more about it later. I'm excited for you guys to take a look at it. We are going to help no matter what. So Michael's stretch goal is 15K. He's already almost there, 14.2 or something like that as of when we went live. I'll get us that far easily, but would love anybody that wants to support the book. We'll have the link in chat. Please do. It's a pre-sale, so let's make sure that this book comes into existence.
And the good thing about the pre-sales, a lot of times with Kickstarter, they do a Kickstarter and then the book comes out in a year. It's done. So people are going to have it in their hands in August. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So this isn't money that you're raising to make the book. The book is already finished. We're just getting it out into the world. Yeah, we'll talk more about Ripa's strategy, which is pretty interesting as we go. All right, boys and girls.
Let's jump into the news.
Let's do it.
From Unusual Whales, Iran was on the verge of responding to the ceasefire violation, but Pakistan intervened. Trump tweeted out that he got the ceasefire done. Hours later, there were attacks all through the Middle East. It seems like the ceasefire is hanging on by a thread. Catch us up.
By a thread, man. So I don't think that this is long for the world, but depending on who you believe, the ceasefire was either technically violated pretty much immediately after going into effect, as Iran was still bombing Israel and some of the other GCC countries. And then Israel is still, as of right now, bombing Lebanon. So just hours after the ceasefire was declared, the UAE said that its air defenses were actively engaging incoming Iranian ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. Bahrain also reported attacks that injured 2 people. Qatar intercepted 7 ballistic missiles and drones. This is all during the ceasefire. And Saudi Arabia had to issue nationwide civil defense warnings. Iran claimed that post the ceasefire, the GCC strikes were just retaliation for a hit on Iranian oil facilities on Lavon Island, which they attributed to an enemy attack, essentially saying the ceasefire was already being violated by the other guys. It's always the other guys. The IRGC simultaneously put out a statement saying that their finger was on the trigger. That's a direct quote. And they had no trust in U.S. promises. This is a great setup to a ceasefire that we can all get behind. Now, the U.S., for its part, is making similar statements. And clearly, Israel still hasn't taken their finger off of the trigger at all. Oh, and by the way, the Strait of Hormuz still hasn't opened, despite that being a condition of the ceasefire. Only 5 vessels have crossed the strait on Wednesday, 7 on Thursday, and as of right now, more than 600 vessels remain stranded in the Gulf. And Trump said that he's only going to do a ceasefire if the strait is completely open. So that's what we're going into the negotiations with. Now, the United States has more than 50,000 troops deployed across the Middle East, roughly 10,000 above the pre-conflict baseline, and that number is climbing. CENTCOM is overseeing the largest American force posture in the region in years, and new assets keep arriving every day. Marines from San Diego are being transferred directly into the theater. The 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, that's over 2,000 Marines and sailors departed aboard the USS Boxer Amphibious Ready Group in mid-March. We have the 82nd Airborne also on their way. And the schedule seemed to be accelerating with people arriving there day after day. So this is not exactly what I would call ceasefire posture. Many are saying that what's really going on is that Trump is using the ceasefire to build up more troops and prepare for a continued assault, which seems pretty likely, or at least that he wants his options open to that. So I would not expect this ceasefire to last very long. Michael Malice, what do you think? Does this last, or are we going to break it before we get going?
I think it's interesting that you and I independently came to the same conclusion, because I think even though we're very different people, you're a very clear-headed person. I'm not necessarily. But I remember on Monday, everyone was foaming at the mouth. Not everyone, lots of people. Trump has lost his mind. You have the 25th Amendment him. He's going to nuke Tehran. And it's just like, I remember the first term, he was going to nuke North Korea. And North Korea is like, Kim Jong-un, you're going to face fire and fury like the world's never seen. Now it's going to be, he said to Iran, death, fire and fury, which is obviously much worse. It's clearly a negotiating tactic he's used over and over. I don't understand at this point how people are falling for it or thinking he's crazy. And we saw it because, as you said, the Strait of Hormuz was not opened. And we were told Tuesday night, I think it was 8 p.m. Eastern, if the Strait of Hormuz is not opened, that he's going to blow up every bridge in Iran, he's going to blow up all their power plants, and a civilization will be wiped off the face of the earth. I'm paraphrasing his exact quote.
That's pretty close.
The strait's not open, and crickets. Yeah. So I think it is very plausible what you're saying. He's prepping for a ground invasion, but this threat of like, we're going to bomb them back to the Stone Age where they belong. That was the quote. I remember. Yeah. They're not. So people often say that Trump should be taken seriously, but not literally, and his opponents take him literally, but not seriously. How are you taking him literally when it's been clearly shown that this was a bluff?
Yeah,
Thank God, by the way.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. And hearing people, the thing that drives me crazy about the taco condemnations is that they should be praising him for that.
I know, that's right.
This is somebody that's saying, listen, I'm intellectually flexible. And so, yes, I said I was going to do all this stuff. But P.S., by the way, you all hated when I said that I was going to do it. So now I'm not doing it. What's your response? You're mocking me for it. It's like, kids, so you're literally trying to incentivize him to go full psychopath.
Right.
I don't understand.
You do understand, because I think the internet is there to gin up people's agitation.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do, if you don't like, people don't run a true false filter. They run an us-them filter. And if Trump is a them, no matter what he does, he can't do anything right. And if you're a MAGA person, a full-blown MAGA person, no matter what Trump does, he can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot of time on social media, and it's discouraging and disheartening, but it's kind of par for the course at this point.
Speaking of discouraging and disheartening, so I have a default algorithm running in my brain that, so first of all, my base assumption is this is a deterministic universe. We are automata. We do not have the ability to change. And therefore, the reason that history repeats is that we just respond in pretty knowable ways en masse.
Okay.
And that the only thing that history has shown can turn the course on something like this once it ratchets up and the thing that's ratcheting up is the psychological contagion that people get into. And the only thing that ends up reversing course is pain and suffering. And so that we get to this point as an automata that's like, yeah, I don't like this anymore. And so now I'm willing to go in another direction. Do you hold out more hope that there is something else that will, like, Trump will negotiate this well and we'll get on the other side and things will calm down? Or how do you see a reunification of some sort of sensible, enjoyable, productive world order?
Well, I think there's that quote about compromise is something everyone can live with, but nobody likes. I think that's something that's going to happen in Ukraine and Russia as well. No one's going to be happy with how that ends, or maybe Putin will be happy, maybe Zelensky, but I don't think they really will. The thing, a lot of people in the Middle East, it's not just Israel, hate Iran. I've been to Bodrum, Turkey, which is like a resort town. They are not fans of this whole kind of like hijab kind of culture. They're very westernized, and there's other pockets. Dubai's obviously trying to become, and successfully has become, a city of the world. So this is an issue for them. At the same time, if I'm Iran, there's something so frustrating, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that any kind of empathy, which is meaning seeing things from other people's point of view, is regarded somehow wrong in this country. It's like if you say, let's look at things from the Iranian point of view, it's like, oh, you want Iran to win? It's like, no, but these are people who have values, and they have weapons, and they will act to further values using their weapons insofar it's necessary for them. If another country just dropped a bomb on the White House, we're not going to be like, you know what, just kind of cut us a check for reparations, and we're going to be square. At the same time, if you are Iran and you genuinely believe, as I think they no longer do, that there's a lunatic in the White House and he's about to nuke us, then very quickly could be like, oh, okay, hey, buddy, let's take a deep breath. How can we work together here? You know, he got elected in 2016 pretending to be this big deal maker. And in many cases, that's true, the Abraham Accords being one prime example. But you really put them into a corner, because how are you going to maintain your hold on power as the Iranian government if your people see you weak and there's a huge movement in your country that regards your rule as illegitimate? The second you show that weakness, your neck is on the line. So they really have a lot of, and the Strait of Hormuz, they've got the rest of the world, if I could use a bad expression, by the short hairs. It's like, I don't blame them for being like, yeah, we're exposing you, Trump, as a fraud.
Yeah. The fact that this is existential on both sides is something that I don't think people are putting into their calculation nearly enough. For Trump, if he loses the midterms, he will get impeached. They will hound him even after he's out of office. If Republicans aren't in control, I think that they will try to imprison him. And I think he's certainly running that algorithm. And then obviously Trump is actively trying to get regime change, whether he says it's his goal or not. When you kill that many people, clearly you're after something. So for them, it's existential. Also for the reason that you said, that their own people will come in and turn them over. Now, one of the things I can't build an accurate mental model for is what percentage of Iranians want the theocracy and what percentage want to go back to like sort of pre-1979 status. Do you have a sense? Like, are you able to get a read on?
I think and I and everyone else can, because the ones who want that are here. Like, they're the ones who fled Iran in 1979. People in cities know Persian communities. They're the Persian diaspora. So especially the ones who were the powerful ones, the leaders, they had to flee when the Shah fell. Yeah. First of all, by the way, this is just an important thing about 1979, because the Shah was like, oh, he's terrible, he's terrible. There's always this idea that whenever someone's a terrible leader, you got to get him out. And it's like, guys, it can always get worse. Yeah. So the people who are like, the Shah's the devil, we got to get rid of the Shah, F the Shah, you got rid of the Shah, and look what happened afterwards. So the idea that the alternative to a terrible leader is going to be a better leader is not true. It could be, the choices are bad and worse. Yeah. I don't think, even no matter what percentage of people in Iran want regime change or want this theocracy to go away, I don't think they have clout. I don't think they really, it's not a democracy in the sense of the West with, human rights being respected. So how many thousands were just literally killed by this regime?
Yeah, it depends on who you believe, somewhere between 3,000 and like 40,000.
At least the 9/11, right? Yeah. At least 3,000 people. So, and the Kurds, were encouraged to rise up with like, no, hey, we saw this song before. We know what's going to happen. You're going to encourage us to rise up. Then you're going to turn your backs on us and we're all going to get slaughtered. Yeah. So they were smart enough not to do anything about it. So I think this regime has a hold on power that's pretty strong. And I think it's going to be very hard to put someone in there who's going to be like, all right, I'm going to shake hands with the U.S. and Israel after what they just did. I don't see how that happens. Yeah. But the other thing is, no matter what happens, I think Trump's going to call it a win. He's
yes.
And he could say with a straight face, oh, we bombed their nuclear facilities back to the Stone Age, as he did previously. This is the second time we're bombing their nuclear facilities. So I don't know. I think the midterms were going to be a wash anyway for the Republicans, just simply because of the economy.
Yeah. Yeah. As of right now, as I've said many times, they're on a one-way collision course with losing the midterms because people just aren't going to feel it in their pocket. The new economic data is coming out, and last month they were expecting 2.2% growth. I think they got 0.5. So It's rough, man. It is rough. So though I used this analogy before, I'll be interested to see what you think about it. So there's a jellyfish that can live forever. It essentially becomes like it disintegrates down into these pluripotent cells that then rebuild. And so barring trauma, it will just keep doing that forever. But when you're in that undifferentiated pluripotent state, you're just a blob. Right. That's what the world order feels like to me right now. It's this insanely dangerous thing where all these alliances that used to create some sort of skeletal structure to the world and how things work, it's just all like becoming blobby.
My autism is being triggered because that jellyfish is not dangerous and doesn't have a skeleton.
Not dangerous. I didn't say it was dangerous.
You said the world order is dangerous. So if you're going to call it the jellyfish.
The fact that it has disintegrated and that you don't have stable alliances puts you at risk.
I'm just saying it doesn't port to the jellyfish because that jellyfish is not dangerous and jellyfish doesn't have a skeleton. So that's why my autism is being triggered here.
Okay.
So if you're going to use the metaphor, use the accurate zoological metaphor. Point being, we are in dangerous territory because I can go country by country in Europe and they all are collapsing from a binary, or you would have in different countries, like let's suppose Sweden, you'd have the two main parties, center left, center right party, and each of those would have ancillary parties, right? But in country after country, UK is a prime example. Since World War II, or even before that, you'd have the Tories and Labour, and then the third party was the Liberals, and later became the Lib Dems. Now, in the all British polls, the Reform Farage's party is clearly in first, and you have a second tier of 5 different parties. So the electorate's being split 6 ways as opposed to 2. And how do you form coalitions like this? It's going to be something that's very, very tricky. We saw this in Iceland. They had I think 10 parties in parliament. The Czech Republic now has reconsolidated to 4. They don't have any left-wing parties anymore except for the Pirates. So with the rise of social media, it's a lot harder in some ways for the two establishment parties of countries to corral their people, because if you look at just Coca-Cola, you can go to the store right now and get 8 kinds of Coke, or more than 8 kinds: caffeine, diet, cherry diet, cherry cat, whatever. So it's harder and harder to tell people you have to pick Republican or Democrat, and people get disaffected with the system. And while I do see that's an opportunity when people get disaffected with systems, it's also, there's a trade-off, which is like if enough people like screw this, lots of bad things often can end up happening.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What do you think is going to be the outcome of the negotiations? We've got Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner replaced with, I don't know who the full delegation is, but led by J.D. Vance.
How do you, you're a negotiator, you're a businessman. How do you sit down? First of all, it's really funny because Trump, I don't want to say funny, but really disturbing that Trump was bragging about like, oh, we're killing all their leaders. Well, then who's in a position to negotiate with you, right? Like, isn't that kind of important to have some guy that can sit down? So Iran, to my understanding, has several power centers. You have the military, you have the theocracy, and then you have the secular-ish kind of government. I don't know who they're negotiating with. Each of those 3 is going to have their own agenda. All 3 are going to do what they can to maintain their hold on power, and you can't blame them. So I don't see what they're being offered when they're sitting pretty and they're humiliating their opponents on the world stage. The guy's body isn't even cold yet. So there's an enormous incentive for Iran to keep this going. Do you think it's going to be going on through November?
No, I think Trump will back out, but I think that it will. I think as of right now, I don't see any indication that we won't be in a worse position than if we hadn't gone in.
Yeah, that seems plausible to me as well.
So I think that they'll have control of the strait. I think they'll open it back up because they have to from their own economic standpoint, but they'll start charging a toll. They will assert we control this space, and the U.S. has basically abdicated their willingness to be the global police. So sea lanes basically are no longer open and free. I don't think anybody else has the ability to stop them from doing that. And so then it becomes a bigger question. Okay, then what happens to the Red Sea? Do we get the Houthis, which are a proxy of Iran? Do they take that over as well and start charging tolls there? And then, of course, the GCC countries will start doing things over land. But all of that is going to make this all that much more expensive, that much more high risk. And this gets into where we start losing allies who right now can tolerate what Trump did. But when you're someone like Japan, it gets real hard to root for the US if your entire populace is like, hold on a second, all of our energy costs, which is now just blanket inflation is how it will read, is because that asshole went in and then he bounced when he got what he needed, theoretically. Because so that, not just Japan, but many people will have a reaction like that, because here's the really brutal part that I'm not sure how many people are paying attention to. If we quote unquote lose and Trump backs out, that will be really good for us, because America makes so much energy that there will be places in the world now that'll be like, okay, we're just going to do energy from the US. So the US now has a much stronger energy position. Our oil companies are making a ton of money, hand over fist. And so Japan is like, wait a second, your guys' GDP is growing because of what you did. I'm in fucking dire straits over here because of what you did. And Europe will be in a similar situation where, you know, they're either going to have to choose, do we buy from the US? Do we buy from the completely embattled Middle East? Or do we go to Russia? If we buy from Russia, fuck, we hurt ourselves because of the war in Ukraine. So now we've got to buy from America that put us in this position in the first place. So it's like America is going to come out in a pretty good economic position anyway.
Let me jump in really quick, because there's some speculation about that. Because right now we have the Spanish PM, we got the Australian PM, and we got the United Kingdom PM all condemning this attack. Some people are even going as far as condemning Israel and his attacks with Lebanon, and just saying there's a whole problem in the Middle East in general. So it's very easy for us to say, we'll go to the North America, everybody will buy oil from us, where Iran was giving grants to Spain to get their charters through. There was speculation that the EU and 39 other countries sat down to actually figure out how to open up the strait. So is there a possibility, one, that Iran could just cut direct deals and cut us out? And then two, are there any lasting ramifications to us alienating our allies, both Israel and us versus the world? Is that a world order or a unity we can sustain?
Well, I know specifically Spain and UK both have center-left social democrat PMs, and they're both under huge fire because right now in Spain, the third party, I forget what it's called, they're the Nationalist Party. They're surging really hard in the polls. And in UK specifically, obviously Farage's reform is way ahead. And Starmer's facing in May local elections, which look like the Labour Party might come in fourth or even fifth, which would be complete disastrous. So it looks like his time at number 10 is numbered. So I think what
Putin
they're trying
straight clowned on him.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is at least rally their base, which is going to be the left-wing half of their respective countries. But to your point, I think it's very clear that that a lot of these people want to be like, this wasn't on us. Trump's crazy. Let us get our oil through. And to your point, Iran saying we control the Strait of Hormuz, like they de facto do. So at a certain point, it just becomes de jure.
Yeah, it's really going to come down, Drew, to nail that point home. It's going to come down to how stably and at what cost they can get the oil out of the Middle East. Because if you're getting like a real fight between Iran and, say, the UAE, because part of what I think people are missing is that the GCC countries are not in love with Iran. So this is not like some... the Middle East is looking at America going, what the fuck? It's the Middle East already have their own beef. They're in Trump's ear. Like in the beginning, they were trying to be coy about it. And they were saying like, oh, you shouldn't do this. These are Islamic countries. Leave us alone. But behind the scenes being like, yeah. Go fuck these kids up. And then they thought by keeping their nose clean that Iran would keep it all to Israel, to American bases, and they didn't. And they started like just going ham, like bombing everybody in the region. And so that's going to be a question of US leaves. Do they just go, we don't want to fight, and so they're doing things over land, they're coming up with deals? Or is there now enough resentment or enough economic damage that they're forced to fight? And so now that region becomes like these constant pockets of violence that raises insurance costs, tolls go up because of Iran. And now it's like shit is just unsettled enough there that people are looking for alternatives. And your alternatives are literally Venezuela, which is US controlled, the U.S. directly or Russia. If you're Europe, you're definitely not going to Russia. So if the things in the Middle East calm down, U.S. doesn't have as much leverage.
And they're already holding our debt, so I mean, we get a discount.
I don't know that you're saying that they're definitely going to Russia. First of all, wasn't it? Please clarify me for me.
You think they might go to Russia?
Hold on, but wasn't it explicit that the UAE and Saudi were telling Trump that you guys should go through with this? Like, I thought they admitted it, right? This isn't just speculation. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they've said, I don't know that they said you should go through with this, but they have said we support our ally and we're doubling down on our engagement with
them. So it wasn't. It was pretty clear that they were whose side they were on.
Yes. Once the first bombs, they could drop the pretense.
Right. That's right.
And so now they're like, we're in.
We're talking about incentives. Like, we remember Hillary Clinton was with Russia, the big reset button. So it's very possible that Europe sits down Zelensky and says, okay, we're going to cut our losses with Ukraine. You're going to make a deal with Putin. And they could be like, oh, look, Europe brought peace that Trump couldn't bring. Now we're all friends again. We're going to take oil from Russia. You can imagine them saying that pretty easily.
I can. You're right. It isn't on my bingo card for right now, but it's certainly not outside of the realm of possibility. That would be very interesting. Have you seen Zelensky is floating this idea? He didn't use the word new NATO, but I'll use it. So same idea that a group of countries minus the U.S. would get together and try to basically overpower Russia. And so it was like the new entrants were Turkey, somebody else, maybe just Ukraine. But it was an interesting coalition of Europe, Turkey, Ukraine,
Norway, and the UK.
Norway, thank you. And I guess technically
I think I don't see almost any situation where Europe is going to give forces to any significant extent to Ukraine.
Really?
You think they would? How are you going to sell that to the British?
The only way that would move forward is if the U.S. were to pull out of NATO,
right,
and these guys realize that they have to remilitarize, and then something happens in the war that pushes it beyond stalemate.
Sure.
So if Russia were able to start making progress, because it'll stay a proxy war,
right,
as long as it can,
right, exactly.
But at some point, something has to cause this to go in a direction. It could be oil, and that we need oil, and then something like what you're saying plays out. It could be that Russia starts actually making inroads once the U.S. is not engaged and not giving the kind of weapons that they need. So, or God, if China, Russia, Iran, North Korea begin to solidify their allegiance, and then China starts really helping Russia, Iran starts, if Iran is able to calm everything down with the U.S. and then they have bandwidth to start helping out Russia, that could make that a breaking point that starts pushing into Europe. Not something I think is likely, just...
No, it's coherent. That's a coherent possibility.
So we'll see.
But I think it'd be very hard to sell war to the Europeans.
Agreed, aggressively.
Yeah.
But energy has a way of making people make hard decisions. And they've made such idiotic choices with their green policies that energy in Europe is ridiculous.
So since the Labour Party in the UK is so unpopular now, it's the Green Party that is surging. And they're the ones who make Keir Starmer look like Margaret Thatcher. So they're real loons. They won their first by-election, I believe in May, in March. And they're the ones who are surging into all the polls.
The Green Party.
Yes.
Whoa.
So they have this progressive Islam alliance. That's their kind of backers.
More to be said about that.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of factions, especially on the right, Trump went against everybody, calling out Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones. Each of them came and had their own tweet responses. He called them a bunch of nut job troublemakers. Is this actually a problem? Or on Truth Social, people are definitely pushing back against it. So I'm not going to read the half a page tweet. Yes, this is one of those.
This is how boomers tweet.
It's like 500 words. This is literally like a deep dive script.
I'm sorry to hear that, or whatever. I'm not reading on it. It's one of those situations.
I'm sorry or congratulations.
I'm happy for you. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, this is wild. There's probably a few bits and pieces that I do want people to hear because it's pretty crazy. He's saying that Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson all have one thing in common: low IQs. They're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it, and everyone else knows it. And it just literally goes on and on like that. They lost their jobs on TV. Nobody wants to hear from them. They're just dumb and they have no good ideas. It's pretty crazy.
These so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be.
Yeah.
Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who just was one of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should, for his horrendous attack on the families of Sandy Hook shooting victims.
Yeah.
Ridiculously claiming it was a hook, and Alex Jones was Team Trump. So
What's interesting about this is there's such a civil war going on right now within the right. And so you keep hearing polls, even from CNN, that like Republicans are united in the MAGA wing. And then there's just these fringe characters that are outside of that. I don't pay enough attention to the actual different personalities within that. Do you have a read on whether this is fringe or whether the Republican Party is really starting to break apart?
So I have Alex Jones' tinfoil hat hanging on my wall in my house, which you've seen. And I wrote a book about this whole space called The New Right, which came out in 2019, I believe. I think this isn't crazy because I think this is how Trump speaks to his strong base. So Trump likes to kind of send people to the wilderness and basically say this person's out group now. I remember in his first term he did with Steve Bannon saying, oh, sloppy Steve was on his knees begging for his job back and blah, blah, blah. So he's very good at telling his loyal rabid fans who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. I don't think what this is fringe in the sense that you don't have to be a Megyn Kelly or Alex Jones fan to be a Republican or right of center and be like, what the heck are we doing with Iran? And I remember I was on Timcast and we watched Trump give that speech, and it was just like, everything's great, Iran's destroyed, like, or if you don't do what we want, we're going to kill you more. It's like, but you just said they were destroyed. And Tim had to play Marco Rubio's clip, which was far more coherent, which is not surprising in retrospect, where he laid out the bullet points of the objectives of the U.S., with this conflict. I mean, I think this is par for the course with Trump, but the premise of my book, which has come to fruition, is these disparate factions which combined to create the Trump coalition in 2016 and even stronger in 2024. The only thing they had in common was a hatred of progressivism. And if you take away progressivism, a cultural force, which it is on the back wagon in terms of DC, not in terms of a culture, all of a sudden these people realize they don't really have that much in common, this being U.S. interventionism abroad being a prime example. So it's not at all surprising, especially Alex Jones of all people, to be like this war in Iran is crazy. This is the New World Order, coming to fruition. Not one more penny of American tribute should be spent on, war in the Middle East. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Alex and these others took this position.
And if you had like rough swag, is this like a 50-50 split in terms of voting base, or?
I get asked this question all the time. And this is a question I ask myself all the time, because if you go on Twitter, you're going to have a certain perspective. And then you go in the supermarket, it's going to be completely different. And the issue, this has been an issue even for Nixon, when Nixon was running, for president 60 and then 68 and 72, is you have to get through the primary and you're talking to the base. And then after you get through the base, you can tack to the center for the general. That's getting harder and harder to do, because if I'm a candidate and I'm tweeting something in October, having gotten through the primary, my opponent can throw things in my face, or my former fans could be like, you're selling us out. I had this tweet about Lucy and the football with Peanuts, with J.D. Vance being an anti-war Republicans, because I think people are sick and tired of politicians claiming I'm anti-war, and they go, and Trump, Woodrow Wilson, 1916, with his campaign slogan was, he has kept us out of war. Months later, we're in World War I. Trump has been denouncing action in Iran for a long time. At the same time, he's been denouncing the Iranian regime for decades. In his head, I think to some extent, this is finishing what should have been finished a long time ago when they took American hostages. So I think I do not envy J.D. Vance, because he's trying to walk like two tightropes simultaneously. And I don't think he's doing a good job of it, but he's only one person.
Yeah, it's interesting. The same way that I have a hard time getting a read on what percentage of the populace was willing to rise up and get shot in Iran versus who wants the theocratic regime, I have a similar sense of or inability to gain a real sense of, okay, in real life, what percentage of this base is for and against Trump. But the amount of chaos and inability to track what the narrative is, I think is going to make it impossible for Trump to keep the coalition together. There's just so much noise. The volume and velocity of information that social media allows for, when you start fragmenting your amplifiers, like if you've got, what's he got, 10 to 20 people that he can reliably count on, they have a big audience and they'll say the thing. and now a substantive portion of them are not saying the thing anymore, now the narrative begins to fracture and people don't know what words to say.
Right.
I've often said that part of what will always limit my growth on social media is that I have no interest in giving people the words to say. So I'm trying to map cause and effect. And so if somebody wants to hear me talk, that's what they're going to hear. I'm trying to figure out, okay, somewhere in this, because I believe, and I think maybe we have a bit of a collision, but I believe that we live in a deterministic universe. We're automata. We respond in like these knowable ways that it's like, oh, you can map this stuff out. They're very complex systems to be sure, so nobody sees the future clearly, but you can really get a lot of useful information if you go, there's cause and effect here.
Sure.
And so, but that doesn't give people bumper stickers. The people that have been talking up to this point were giving everybody the bumper stickers. So when their left-leaning friend was talking, then they could come in with their right-leaning talking points. And they felt like, cool. It's like two superheroes shooting, their red flame and the blue flame, and they just sort of stop in the middle. But now that's all going away. And so I don't know if Trump, given the state of the economy, given like how unpredictable the war is, and now you're losing the people that were saying the thing for you, it's going to be pretty tough to come back from.
I just remember very vividly in 2020 when they ran the table on him all year on everything, right? The COVID times. Like he just kept folding. At the same time, I think there's a huge crack in the system in the Republican Party, because I don't think the donors like J.D. Vance as much as the base likes J.D. Vance. They clearly like Rubio much more. He's much more of a reliable Republican. I think the other thing people need to appreciate when people who are Trump haters from the Republican Party think he hasn't done more, I'm like, guys, you don't have the House, right? You're not in a position, there's like a one-seat majority that doesn't function as a majority. Right. You're not going to get the MAGA agenda through the House. And you have to appreciate that of those Republican senators, there are plenty who would be more than happy, if it suited their interests, to remove him from office if there was an impeachment bill that crossed their desk. Collins in 2 seconds, Murkowski in 2 seconds, and that's just Rand Paul would not be reliable. That's 3 already. So you're already at 53. You need 67. I don't think they're worried about their reelection. They're worried about their bottom line. This guy has a little over like two years left in office. They're at a certain point you're gonna fish or cut bait.
Do you think that J.D. Vance is the future of the Republican Party? I'm thinking 2028. Is it him? Is it Rubio? Is it some, Massey or Rand Paul or somebody like that? Who do you think has that cultural energy now that all these podcasters are kind of abandoning Trump?
I think J.D. Vance thinks he's smarter than Trump in all the ways that don't matter. I think he and Elon did the same bet with Trump. They thought, I'm going to use this dolt from their perspective, and I'm going to use him to further my agenda. But Trump is really smart in ways that JD isn't, which is he understands politics until 5 minutes ago, and he understands how to work a crowd, and he's got that kind of once-in-a-generation political talent. I think JD, the swing voter in America is Karen, and I think Karen hates JD Vance because he comes off as smarmy. And that internet snark, which I'm certainly a fan of and a proponent of, doesn't really work when you're young and when you don't have a resume behind you. Everyone likes a winner. When you're a loser, all of a sudden everyone's more than happy to throw you overboard. And how is JD going to run? Because this Trump is hypersensitive to people who he perceives as disloyal. So the second JD starts backpedaling on some things that Trump's done, it's going to be really ugly for him.
Yeah. So far, JD has shown that, if the leaks can be believed, that behind the scenes, he'll tell Trump, I think this is a bad idea.
Sure.
But that he'll signal, I'm going to back you on this. And then he does a pretty loyal job.
Right.
In terms of directly answering who's the future of the party, right now, Rubio is the only other real contender. Now, we're a long way away, so you never know what's actually going to happen. But Rubio's the only other real contender. For someone with my personality anyway, I'm far more interested in Rubio. I haven't seen anybody on the Democrat side that I would even consider. But the problem is that Rubio himself clearly sees some path where if I back J.D. Vance, that I'm going to get my shot. And so he keeps saying that J.D. is the next one that's going to be running. I'm going to support him with everything I have. Those two talk about being best friends in the administration. And so, listen, this is me with a writer's hat on, but me click-clacking on a keyboard, I would say it looks something like this. You've got Peter Thiel as a stand-in for whatever cabal of people who've realized it's time to go behind the scenes. That includes Elon Musk. And it's like, okay, who are we going to get into the White House? JD's going to be our guy. We love us some Rubio, but Rubio, you need to wait your turn. We've got a plan. JD's way more in their pocket than I would expect Rubio to be. Rubio's a little more true blue politician, knows how to play the game, but really has like an agenda. And so he's going to be a bit more wild cardy, which is what I love about him. It really feels like he's trying to tell you what he thinks is actually real. So if Rubio has bought into that, and it seems like he has, it's like, I'm not going to try to beat these guys. He's too shrewd for that. But he gets like, okay, we could have a real legendary run if Trump doesn't fuck all this up. So
It's a big
right now it seems impossible, but that's the bet that they made.
Here's the other thing. If it's April 2014, right, and I sat down here and I said, Tom, you, the future of the Republican Party is Donald Trump, you would try not to laugh in my face. And I say, will you bet me $500,000? And you'd be like, oh, easy money. Right. And that's what ended up happening. So we don't even know if JD's going to run.
Yeah.
I think this stuff with his wife, Usha, is not things that she's particularly a fan of. We don't even know if Newsom's going to run. My theory, and I talked to Mark Halpern about this, and he said it's his theory as well, is if JD starts to falter, some other Republican comes in the race, not even intending to win, but it's a great way to build your brand identity, book deals, speaking gigs. The donors are funding your run. You don't have to do anything. And if there's a crack in the fissure, then a Rubio or somebody else can step in and be like, all right, I'm trying to save the party. So I think Vance is giving Hillary 2008 energy, where it's like, look, I'm the guy. It's already, let's work with the general. Like, it's resolved. And at a certain point, someone's going to say like, you know what, maybe you're not the guy. So he's not been nationally tested. Obviously, he's been Trump's VP, but he hasn't run on his own before like Rubio has. So I think there's a lot of donors who'd be more than happy to open their wallets and fund somebody who they don't like. Military people. If I'm someone part of the war machine and I'm not confident in JD Vance being a war president, I'm going to pour that money to Rubio or Rubio surrogate. Why wouldn't I? Because I'm going to lose billions if we have a peace president.
That's interesting. That's dark, but
that's how it works.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I think it's a continuation of the war machine, though, because right now JD Vance is in Iran negotiating. Is this just him trying to clean up after Trump, or is this, to your point, kind of ushering his Cinderella moment of, look, I can handle the big thing. This is me getting out there. This is me doing something and getting out of Trump's shadow.
If I'm Raytheon, I'm not confident in a President JD Vance in furthering my agenda.
Are you confident in President Marco Rubio?
Yes.
Interesting. That's almost bad news for me. But the thing about JD, at least if the news can be believed, is that Iran asked for him. So I don't know what that tells us about Witkoff and Kirshner. I don't know if there's something to read there where those guys have too much of a sort of privateer agenda. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting that they were asking for him. So you either ask for him because you think he's more reasonable, because you think he's weaker, or you just don't know who else to reach for. And the other two guys, you're just like, absolutely not. Like, we're not going to go back.
Well, I think they're asking for him because they can clearly tell he thought this was a mistake. And he's the one who's going to try to get them to an exit ramp that everyone can kind of deal with.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable. From the back channel stuff that leaks out about, theoretically, again, I don't have any insider information, but that's certainly the word on the street, that he told Trump, I think this is a mistake. We should not do it. But if you do it, I'll back you.
But you saw that there were people. So there are two ways of looking at this. There were those photos that came out when the attack happened. And it's Vance, Tulsi, and a couple other people basically at the kids' table, right? And the question is, okay, and there were a few articles about how this is humiliating J.D. Vance. Some people were saying this is 40 chess. This is Vance saying, look, I had clean hands. I wasn't involved with this. Some people also said, oh, you're not going to have the president and vice president in the same room when stuff like this is popping off. And I'm like, we saw that photo when bin Laden was getting killed, and Secretary of State Hillary's there, Vice President Biden and Obama, they're all in the same room together. So I wasn't buying it.
That photo up.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's clearly some faction in the White House that is doing what they can to undermine J.D. Vance. And to marginalize him. I don't think, and Tulsi especially.
Do you think that's a pushback on Peter Thiel? And he's a stand-in for me for all those guys. Or is it really just about JD?
I think it's the war people don't think JD's one of them, and they're correct. So they're doing what they can to kind of pull the rug out from under him.
Yeah. Be careful of the That was it. The
military industrial complex.
Military industrial complex. Yeah, it's so wild. Like that kind of stuff is always deeply distressing. This idea that there are these forces behind the scenes that remain as invisible as possible that are able to pull people through. It's very, very fascinating.
But I don't know if it's necessary. So you could steal man and say it's not distressing because it's a good thing to have continuity and stability. So this is one of the reasons we have the Supreme Court, which is lifetime appointments. You're not going to have the law rewritten every few years, right? So the argument, which is not something I necessarily hold to myself, is you want that kind of shadow government because no matter who happens to win a vote every 4 years, the country's still going to remain on some level stable. That's the argument for it.
And it's a very good argument. My problem is, and this is exactly how I feel about the economy, debt is phenomenal. It is truly a miracle. However, it grows toxic always and forever, every time without exception. And so you have this thing that gives you the world of abundance that we see, but then it also gives you the K-shaped economy that ensures that ultimately there's a revolution and people are burning distribution centers down. So yes, you get the stability, but you also get people that have their own agenda and are saying to themselves some variant of, you're going to be gone in 4 years and I'm still going to be here. So I'm going to drag my feet, ignore you, not do what you want, and pull against you. And the more that things like Project Veritas reveal like how much these people have political agendas that I did not vote for, and they're able to pull so incredibly well in a direction, it's pretty traumatizing. And I don't know why, but my audience absolutely does not respond positively when I talk about Israel and the Jews, and which makes me want to talk about it more. It is the contrarian in me. So here we go, boys. This is exactly, I think, part of the issue with the Israel lobby is the more I started researching, like, so I don't buy for a second that certainly Trump and America in general, I don't believe that we're puppets to Israel. And I don't believe that because the data is so obvious that we're not. We can walk through what that is, but like, anyway, that's my belief. But when I look
you got the call.
I have, it's so funny. People will say, just watch the chat. They are convinced I get checks.
Someone got the $7,000.
Yeah. So
you were broke before.
Yeah. It's hilarious to me that people think that, but, what I do find very troubling is how
Wait, can I say
good they
something?
are. Sure.
That's how bad you are. You didn't even have to get the call. You're doing it for free.
Yes.
You're even
Much
worse.
Better. That is where people should go.
Yeah.
Nice with the rim shot.
Yeah.
So the point there is that the way that they put an evolutionary pressure on who gets elected is brilliant, sinister, and has a huge impact on the kind of person that's able to get to power.
That's right.
And so, but nobody talks about that. Nobody puts their finger on the thing that's actually the real problem. So they're always talking about, it's the money, they're buying people off, yada, yada, blackmail. Nope, they have a way more sophisticated and sort of interesting from a sociological perspective, but it's that same deep statey thing. It's like, well, we're going to be here long after you leave. You guys are all transient. We've created this organization that's going to vet these people at the city council level long before they're thinking about state or national level politics. And so we're going to make sure that we kill in the cradle anybody that's not pro-Israel. And it's when you take that, if you're mortified by that, as you should be, then you should also be mortified, in my opinion, by the deep state, because it's doing that same thing where it's like, they're just like, oh, cool, that's what you want us to do? Yeah, but we're not.
Were both Obama's parents CIA operatives?
Were they?
Yeah, look this up. Double check it, because I please double check it.
Idea.
Whenever I hear a claim, I always, for me or anybody, always double check what someone on your screen is saying, and then you can see for yourself.
Very good advice. That's wild.
The claim that both of Barack Obama's parents were CIA operatives is a conspiracy theory that lacks credible evidence, according to investigations, biographical research.
Look up
Gemini AI.
Look up what the mom.
Well, let me tell you, Gemini is the one that I trust the least. Gemini, dude, have you had any run-ins with Gemini?
I've never used. It forces me to. Can you look up the mom in CIA? Whatever her name is, Nancy something. It pops up at the top, but I don't. Yeah. I've had it say crazy things about me.
Dude, Gemini is unhinged. It has such an agenda. So Gemini is what runs. So YouTube has what they call Ask Studio.
Okay.
So you can work with it to come up with video ideas and stuff. It's really like, if you're doing your sort of non-political video, it's phenomenal. The second you start talking about sensitive topics, it will stonewall you. It will chide you. Dude, it was wild. I was so enraged because it was like, Tom, you shouldn't be focusing on this.
No.
Why don't, yes.
No.
And I quote, you were doing so well before. Why don't you just get back
You're
to,
joking.
I am not joking. I wanted
Explicitly?
to. Yes. That is a quote, my man. I could not fucking believe it. I was like, bitch, you must be joking. I was like, there is no way this fucking AI is telling me that I have no, yes, that is a quote. I could not believe it.
Were you doing so good?
I really was. It was like going really well. And then I triggered them. It was wild. The first one I got it on was Epstein.
Okay.
And it wouldn't even tell me why it suddenly switched. So imagine I'm doing so good. We're getting this outline. It's incredible. Super excited about the video. And then I'm like, okay. And now expressly in this section, I want to address, and I listed like 3 things. And one of them was Epstein. And all of a sudden it's like, I can't help you with that. That was the sum total of the response. I cannot help you with that. And I was like, you can't help me with what? I thought like it was glitching.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm not able to help you with these sensitive topics. And I'm like, which one of those topics is it that triggered you? I can't help you with that. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, was it Epstein? I can't help you with that. I'm like, okay, so by process of elimination, since I asked about the other ones and you'll talk about it, this is an Epstein problem. It refused to ever acknowledge that its problem was Epstein. So I was just like, what the fuck is going on right now? So yeah, anyway, this is one of those where you can get me to really derail for an extended period of time on AI manipulating people.
Oh, I use it to manipulate people. So
Why am I surprised?
No, this is a great way to save people on social media. Social media is there to make you crazy. This is how to offload it. One of the big things people like to do on social media is pretend, I'm being generous here, pretend they don't understand what you're saying or misconstrue what you're saying in a Kathy Newman way. So all I'll say is, hey, Grok, explain to such and such a person, and they explain my point of view or the joke, and leave the cretins to argue with Grok and just offload them from your plate, and then you don't have to get into a back and forth. People lack empathy. We are trained since kindergarten to think everyone around us is fundamentally the same under the skin. That is a complete lie. Many people are not interested in looking for truth or looking for understanding. They're looking for an argument, or they get off on being obstinate, and they will drag you in and you will lose at their game because you cannot win. So rather than engage and argue with them, get Grok to do your work for it. You have to be a paying member, and they'll argue with Grok or they'll just go away, but you're not going to be pulling your hair out. And I had Grok yell at someone yesterday.
It will yell on your behalf?
Yes. Because I had something about anarchism. The person wrote back and Grok said, no, you missed the point. Or something. I'm going to pull it up. It's on my Twitter. I want to get the exact quote.
Taking sides.
Yeah. And someone yelled at Grok for not taking sides also.
Yeah, you were saying that before we started rolling. That is insane to me.
While you're pulling that up, we could address some super chats.
Yes. First super chat
do it.
from Marussia Dark says, love Michael Malice. Whenever he speaks, I always take note.
Ooh,
that said, what
you were doing so good. Let's go back. Hey, Gemini, where are you? You were doing so good.
That said, what gives private courts jurisdiction to compel people instead of folks saying, I don't recognize your authority, unlike common law?
Sure. Same thing with any court. Right now, if you have so we're talking about anarchists and private law. Right now, if you have a ruling, it's the person doesn't have to recognize it. Like if I sue you, you owe me 15 grand. There's still a process. So what you would have is the bank would be involved. So if I'm suing you and I don't trust you, Tom, or if I'm doing business with you, you're not going to have money in escrow or money that I can access through a third party who will subscribe to this whole system. That's a risk I'm going to have to take. Same with eBay. Right now, if I am buying a TV from you and you're in Estonia and you're going to mail it to me and I'm like, well, Tom, you screwed me over. Either eBay is going to make me whole or that's a risk I'm taking. I might be out that money.
Right. And then you negotiate in the public eye by saying YouTube was dishonorable and that either damages their reputation or it doesn't.
Or the marketplace will kick you off.
Right.
You know, it's just like with bad Uber drivers at a certain point. It's like you're not going to be a party to this enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I can never reconcile myself to the whole notion of anarchism. I certainly understand better after having talked with you what you mean by it, because I think certainly if anybody is like me growing up in the 80s, anarchy was about the symbol and throwing bombs and
that's part of
like
it.
a sense of chaos. But at least when talking to you, that's voluntarily entering into something. It seems more apt. Of
That's correct. That's correct. But it's also, at a certain point, you do need to throw the bombs.
Marussia Dark for both Tom and Michael. In my opinion, people like Razorfist, Bill Whittle, and Asmongold have made fairly compelling and rational cases as to why the U.S. involvement in Iran is just and moral, worth looking into their arguments.
So anytime somebody's talking about an argument being just and moral, I just need them to weigh or lay out what their value system is. I've watched Asmongold enough that I have a general sense of his value system. It's definitely too discompassionate for me from that perspective. I think a lot of what he says makes sense, but he does spill into this realm of like, as if it isn't human beings that you're talking about on the other end of the policy. So that one goes a little too far. I know of Razorfist, but couldn't tell you a single policy that he has. And the other person, I've never even heard of him. So
I think we could steelman it pretty easily, which is it's very clear, in my opinion, that the Iraq war was a mistake, that far more innocent Iraqi people died as a consequence of this. I don't know that Iraq is a stable country even now. And it's a good thing that Saddam was hanged. Right. So it's really hard to say it's a bad thing that this guy died, the Ayatollah, unless you're going to say, which is probably true, that taking him out both solidified the regime and fomented chaos for the Iranian people. But in terms of him being someone who his death is, unwarranted or immoral, I don't agree with that. I found the quote, which is I had said that North Korea spent decades acting quote unquote crazy to get other nations to capitulate. During the Brexit negotiations, Boris Johnson, who was Prime Minister of the UK at the time, pretended he was just going to walk and do a no deal Brexit. And later he admitted in his autobiography, he was just a bluff. He was never going to do that. And I said, Trump's doing the same thing with Iran. And some cretin wrote back to me going, this is weird, but I don't think Donald Trump is Boris Johnson or Kim Jong-un. And I said, hey, Grok, explain to this guy what a behavior type is. And Grok explains it at length and goes, your reply misses that shared tactic. So it was just kind of like a mic drop.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I will give it that. Yeah.
Next up from, I don't know how to pronounce this, so apologies, Suhaibi Chisti 6975.
I bet that's exactly it, by the way.
Nailed
Perfect
it.
pronunciation.
Tom says Muslims are taking over Europe, but they're less than 6% in the UK and not a monolith. Who runs the unified Muslim strategy? Many Gulf states even oppose each other or ally with UK. Could be normal migration and community building after migration from American wars.
So when it comes to something like that, I will say that people put like these nefarious things on it. So let's say that we all just, for now, I don't necessarily agree with this, but let's just say, because it will show that that argument is irrelevant to my point, that there is nobody running a coordinated effort. That's not what this is about. This is just about incentives. And so people think that they're going to have a better life. There's better care. Maybe it's a better climate, whatever. So they decide that they're going to go to this new place. What ends up happening is exactly what happened in Israel. Is you get people, they go into a place, they are going to naturally try to get other people to come and join them. They're going to become politically and economically powerful. And then they're going to, at some point, if they can, just completely start running the show. And so
you can't blame them.
Yeah. So if you're like, I was fine with it when the Jews did it, and I'm fine with it happening with the Muslims, great. You're being consistent. Totally heard. Now, I have a different stance. But if you have beef with the fact that Israel did it, then I would expect you to have beef with the fact that the Muslims are doing it. So all I'm saying is be consistent in your position. Either the very useful and incredibly well-documented phenomenon of going into an area and overwhelming it with population. And first you seek political power because you're weak. And so that allows you with a small number of people to become powerful. And then you overwhelm the system with economic power. So now it's like everybody has to cater to you. Otherwise the economy begins to collapse. And so that's how you take it over. Or obviously you can use force, but I'm not saying that's the thing that they're running. So I'm not even sure what people are arguing about. So if you look at that's how this game plays, yeah, that's how this game plays.
But also, I think to the point with the UK, I just looked it up, the Muslim population has increased by 44% in the last 10 years. So it's going to have, the native population is either flat or decreasing. Yeah. When you follow those trend lines, I don't want to be too Greta Thunberg hockey stick, it's going to look a certain way.
Yeah, for sure. And what the thing that I don't understand is quite literally what argument they're making. So I'll make my argument as plainly as possible. Everybody has a value set. And the thing that people are willing to kill for is values. So you're inviting a collision along the lines of the very thing that people are willing to kill for. So I'm just saying, hey, that's going to get weird, because when you have colliding values, just like in a marriage, it is going to tear your marriage apart if you have differing values on things that matter enough. The same thing will happen to a society. Full stop.
But also, what percentage of American population has gender dysphoria? It's less than 1%. And yet our entire culture has been reoriented in many ways, including up to kindergarten, to accommodate, or whatever word you want to put, that population. So a population's percent of the whole country is not necessarily correlated to, what a big deal it is.
Agreed. And that really comes down to my big thesis about America. The thing that we struggle with right now is we don't know what our values are.
That's right.
They're not shared. They're not articulated. They're not reinforced. And so it is fun that we can watch all this play out in Europe, America, and Japan, and how different each of those cultures are responding to this is really wild. And Japan is I think Japan somehow gets a pass, and it puts everything in stark relief for me that when you go to Japan, it is just a sea of Japanese people. It is just one race as far as the eye can see, to the point where when you see a white person, it's like, oh, or if you see a black person, it's like, whoa, like it's so unexpected. You come around a corner.
That's your reaction. Let's take that clip out of context.
Yeah.
Tom's reaction when he sees black people.
Yeah. Well, as long as we play the white people, I have the same reaction to them.
Clip it.
Too late.
Here's the thing.
You said it. We all heard you say it.
That is the least of the things that I'm worried about being clipped out of context. I have said the most insane shit. As I will routinely remind myself, I'm easy to make look crazy.
Okay.
So
I
that,
don't think that's true.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. I once had somebody write an article about me and my reading habits that made me sound like a lunatic.
Okay.
That was when I was like, oh wow. Like out of context.
What
I
were the
really do
reading
sound
habits
crazy.
that were so?
I never let a transitional moment go to waste. So I will put headphones in immediately if I'm walking from one space to the next to make sure that I can always learn something.
Okay.
Exactly. But the way they wrote it, it sounds like the lunatic behavior of a madman.
But how? Can you steel man their
I
case?
don't remember. This was a while ago. But it's like somebody that can't ever have downtime. Like, what are they running from? Like, this is somebody that can't even have like 10 steps of peace. It was
So I used to live, when I first moved back to New York after college, I lived in Bensonhurst, which is where I grew up. So to get to work, it would be an hour commute. And I would have a book bag with me with 2 books. And I would read 80 books a day. So 40 pages of a book that's light, 40 pages of a book that's serious. That's a habit I continue to this day. As a result of this, I've read more books than anyone else I pretty much know. And it's a great habit because it keeps my mind sharp.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And the reading something that isn't serious is interesting. I absolutely love fiction. This year, I'm doing something different where I'm watching. Have you ever heard of One Piece?
No.
So for people that don't know, Michael actually is very legitimate in the comic space as a collector, as a reader. You've read so much. I thought you were trolling the first time that you said it. Then I went to your house and realized very unironically that you actually love it. It's an art form I'm so obsessed with. But this year anyway, I have really, for a whole host of reasons, fallen in love intentionally with Japanese storytelling.
Oh, God.
And so I'm watching all of One Piece.
Weeaboo.
So, dude, I'm telling you, there's something very special about Japanese storytelling when you look at kids. The Western comic market gave up on kids.
That's true.
It's all for adults.
Yes,
And
'cause
since
it's
I want to
expensive.
impact kids,
So what DC has started doing is they have manga-sized trade paperbacks for $10. And they're flying off the shelves because that's something kids can afford. Kids can't afford. How much is a floppy now? 300, 350 or something crazy?
Yeah, it's wild.
Kids can't afford that.
no. Also, there was an actual decision that was made in the 90s. Drew, I will trust you'll get us back on track. But
It's a
I'm gonna-
perfect transition to Michael's book. So let's keep talking
in
about
fact,
books and fiction.
fantastic. We'll use this as an entry. So in the 90s, because of what happened with Image Comics, where you had the best artists in the world decide they were going to leave Marvel and DC, they were going to start their own thing. That ended up causing just an absolute problem in the industry because everybody bought their first books as if these were all going to be collector's editions, poured millions and millions and millions of dollars in, only to have it all crater because they bought so much, printed so much that they were all worthless. And so that caused a whole bunch of shops to go under and then ultimately consolidated distribution down to only one
Diamond.
distributor. Yep. So I don't know what that was, but the trailer. So it was really ended up having a massive impact on the industry. So it's like teetering, and they go, are we going to keep making books for kids, which is now exploratory? You have to regain the audience every time. Or do we just make books for the audience that we know we have?
And also IP.
Yeah. But you could make IP relevant, especially superhero stuff, to kids all day, every day.
That's true. Yeah, but a lot of these comics just being because they want to keep the trademark of a character.
Yeah. And so they started making it just for adults, literally by decree. And then that has the impact that it has. Japan, they had the same meeting for different reasons, but they had the same meeting, and Shonen Jump expressly said, we're going to continue targeting kids.
I think that's also one of the reasons they left the Comic Code Authority. So the Comic Code Authority was founded in the 50s because there was a book by someone named Frederick Wertham called Seduction of the Innocent. And the premise of his book is that these comics that were published in the early 50s were not appropriate for children. He's regarded now as one of these great villains of history. Wertham was right, because if you look at the comics at the time, like Tales from the Crypt, I have a framed one in my living room, you'd have things like, he had a chapter on the injury to the eye motif, where people's eyes are being held open. There's like a dagger right near it. And if these are being read by 5, 6, or 7-year-olds, there's one famous Tales from the Crypt cover, or one EC Comics from that vein, where it's a bunch of kids holding a coffin, and it's their little friend in that coffin. You know, when I was a kid, I'd pretend I was Superman, put like a towel around my back and jump around the couch. You see these kind of things with opium and needles. Like at a certain point, some kid's going to get a knife and start joking around with their sister. So you're going to lose an eye like that. And they had something called the Comic Code Authority, which is kind of because there are congressional hearings as a result of this. Gaines, who was the publisher of EC Comics, there was a cover of a guy with an axe in one hand, a woman's head held by the hair in the other, her body on the floor, and they're like, Mr. Gaines, do you think this is in bad taste? And he goes, it's fine because I'm not showing her neck. You can even find this cover, like EC Comics decapitated. So this governed comic books for quite a long time, especially because comic books were on the newsstand. But as the newsstands fell away and comic book stores came about, you had fewer and fewer being like, why do we have this code if we are preaching to a adult audience?
Yeah, it's wild, man. So, all right, Michael, give us like a quick, so the trailer doesn't have any words. Do you want to play the trailer?
No,
knowing that most people aren't looking at their phones. But how did this start? Because the backstory for this, it's based on real people.
It's based on real people. I started writing this book, like I said, in 2000. There was this band from the 80s who combined punk and country. And they would go to punk shows and have hee-haw type jokes where it's just like, hey, Tom, I can't sleep. The couple at the hotel room next door to me were up all night eating candy bars. Candy bars, Michael? Yeah, she kept yelling, oh, Henry, oh, Henry. Now, that kind of Andy Kaufman stuff is stuff I like. There was a photo I saw of them, and I'm like, are these people joking? Like, are they in on it? They were in it. They're art school kids from Rhode Island School of Design. And they rode this ship pretty far. I don't want to spoil too much, but they got signed the same day by the same guy as signed Bon Jovi. And he said, I signed a rock band and art band. I'm taking you both to #1. They're on MTV. They get nominated for certain awards. And the story's about when you're young and you're trying to do something special and you're shooting for the stars and going for that gold, but not quite getting it. So a lot of thing about new wave music is if you look at the surface, it's funny and chirpy and upbeat, but underneath there's really this very dark and sinister message. So what I love about graphic novels is it really allows storytelling in a vein that a novel or a movie doesn't allow. And through this book, the keyboard player did the animation for the film American Splendor. And Ted Hope, who was the producer of American Splendor, the movie, sent out an email that says, Harvey Picar's in town with nothing to do. If you want to hang out with him, this is your chance. And I'm the only person who followed up on that email. And as a result of this, Harvey wrote a book about me, Ego and Hubris, which came out in 2006, which is quite a pretty penny now on eBay. Point being, just broadly speaking, take the meeting. Always if you're going to have an opportunity to talk with someone who's accomplished, sit down and blow smoke up their ass, pick their brain, let them download that knowledge to you, and then work that extra hour for that lunch you missed. And people don't think in those terms.
No,
and
man.
the advice I always give, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, and people have taken my advice. If you, suppose you want to be an author, go to a bookstore, look around at all those shitty books where you're like, how did this guy get a book deal? That could be you. You could be that terrible author where your friends are like, how the F did this guy get a book deal? And when you put in those terms, accomplishment is much more in your grasp. And that's what this story is about, trying to accomplish something and maybe falling a little bit short.
Now, I don't know if you're going to remember what your answer was, but when we went out to dinner and we were talking about the book, I said, what do you want people to feel when they read this? Do you remember what your answer was?
I don't.
Oh, man, I do.
Oh.
I want them to feel like they got punched in the gut.
Yeah. It's because when you root so much of movies, the ugly chick wants a prom date. Mm-hmm. You know how it's going to end. She's going to get the guy, right? But this is real life. And real life, you know the story. Bunch of plucky kids. They're doing something special. They're going for the gold. You know how that story plays out in the movies. That's not how the story plays out in real life. So that sense of like, oh crap, like let's turn this bus around, in a literal sense, the bus gets wrecked in the book. That's something I think it's an important story for people also. And what I realized when I was writing this book, 20 years ago, this story was my fear, because when I was starting out wanting to be an author, I'm like, what if I do everything right and I do something special, I do something unique, and I have very little to show for it? 20 years later, the experiment's been run and been disproven. But this is really kind of those anxieties of people wanting to do something special.
Mm. All right, so the book is called Unwanted. I'm going to be supporting this. So you are on your way to your 15K is your stretch goal. It's like 14,329. Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm. We're almost there.
So you're almost there. So I'm going to get you to 15K myself.
Okay.
So
that
no
means
matter,
everyone gets free stickers.
Nice. Okay, well, let's go, guys. You can thank me later. But if anybody is interested in graphic novels, now's your chance. It's a graphic novel written by a living author that has written incredible books on the world, real life, like seeing things that a lot of people miss.
Accurate predictions that came true, calling the
also
shots.
that.
So, yeah.
The fact that you wrote something, true story, in a graphic novel format, man, is really exciting. I can't wait to read this. So... and I also want to see you do more of this kind of thing.
I also think people are looking for ways to laugh and have a good time. I think the internet is so much oriented right now to have everyone a sense of perpetual despair and anguish that it's good to have something about hope and humor.
Now, you said at the end of this, you want them to feel like they're punched in the gut.
Yeah.
How is that hope and humor?
Because that's only the end.
That's only the end.
There's lots.
Don't worry.
It's fun along
right up until I sock you.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
That's kind of how, I don't want to spoil it, but like real life, this must have happened with you in your career.
Of course.
Rugs get pulled and you think you're there, and then it's just like, holy crap. It's like, it takes, I mean, especially with a band, like things go dark very fast and very quickly. It's such a mercurial industry.
Yeah. Yeah, no. From what you've told me, it's a very fascinating story. Likewise, don't want to ruin it. Also, a weird thing about this. So long before I met Michael, I became aware of the guy behind Ripa Studios.
Eric July.
So Eric B. July, I think,
Yes.
is what he goes by on social media. So he was one of the first people that really started putting on my radar that wokeness, as we would call it now, was infiltrating comics, which at the time I was trying to write comics. And I had a writer's room that I put together that was woke, but I didn't realize because I didn't even know what that was.
Oh, wow.
And so,
he red-pilled you.
I wouldn't say he red-pilled me. The experience red-pilled me. And then for whatever reason, he became one of the people that I'm seeing a lot of content from. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. This guy's just a commentator. And then one day decides he's actually going to stop being a commentator and start producing.
Right.
Which is really pretty incredible. How did you guys connect?
So Eric's an anarchist also.
Oh, sure.
So I've known it. Yeah, I've known it for years. And what's really exciting about Ripascend is usually with these crowdsourced books, you're going to have the Kickstarter and it resolves, and then in a year you may get the book or might not. These things never deliver. Eric's model is very different, which is have the book almost done.
Yeah,
so when
smart.
people are paying and getting the goal, it's going to be in their hand guaranteed in a few short months. I think we're shooting for August. So it's a very different model. And it's also kind of the internet at its best, which is creating opportunities for people to produce and let the chips fall where they may, as opposed to, back in the day, if DC, Marvel, Image, or Valiant or whatever, and if those 4 doors are closed to you, you're SOL. Yeah. And the answer to woke comics isn't, in my opinion, or any woke art, isn't anti-woke art, it's good art.
Yeah.
It's where
just devoid of any specific political leaning. Yeah, no, I think that's
so
best for sure.
Definitely check out the QR code that's at the bottom.
Oh,
Ryan dropped the link into the chat. Let's get back to his goal.
Yeah, unwantedbook.com.
Unwantedbook.com. Check it out, everybody. We have to talk about what Melania Trump did.
Oh, boy.
Her impromptu speech that nobody asked for. Fox News said they didn't even get any heads up. Nobody knew what she was talking about. She said her piece and walked away. Some of the memorable quotes: "Now it's time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter because it became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors." A lot of people are calling this the Streisand effect because it gave heat to the, it gave attention to Daily Beast and their reporting that had Jeffrey Epstein bragging about his close relationship with Trump and the First Lady. Apparently, we're doing bad in Iran because we're bringing the Epstein files back. So we need to cover it from something else.
Man, that things are not going the way that you expected when the thing that you did to quiet people on the Epstein files, you need to bring the Epstein files back to quiet people on that. Pretty hilarious. Yeah, this is weird. This came out of nowhere for me. So the way that she talked, did you see the video?
No.
The way that she talked was as if this big thing had just broke. It came out. Okay, enough is enough. People keep trying to malign me and say that my husband was introduced to me by Epstein, that I'm one of Epstein's victims. I'm not a victim of Epstein. He did not introduce me to my husband. This has to stop right now. And so it was weird. And the thing that I wondered was like, does your husband know you're doing this? Like, he's been trying to get people off this thing forever, and now all of a sudden you're coming out and doing it. So I've said many times that the one person who can get me to do something against my own interests is my wife. And so did that happen here? Like, is she just behind the scenes so unrelenting? I cannot tolerate the way that people are talking about me online. This is going to be my legacy. I don't want this. Like, you got to let me talk about it. And he's finally like, Jesus Christ, okay, fine. Like, go do it. I'm not going to mention it. I'm not even going to talk about it. Like, but if you need to do this, go do this. Or is this strategy where it's like something that's about to break, and so you need to get ahead of this and like just try to basically plant like this is all bullshit, so when this thing comes out that the air is already deflated out of the tire? I don't know. But
yeah, Michael, what's your whole response to this?
Is anything going to drop imminently, though?
That's what people are saying, but it's all rumor that nobody knows of anything new.
Yeah, I don't see. So Melania, people might not realize this. During 2016, when the Access Hollywood tape broke and Trump went on camera, and I think one of the only times apologized, she was the one who came up with the line that this was locker room talk. So she's a lot more canny than people appreciate. Double check me on that, but I'm almost certain that's the case. And she wore to the debate something that was called a pussy bow, which was kind of ironic. The knot that was tied.
I'm gonna need to see that.
The pussy bow?
Yeah, I've never heard of this.
Pussy bow Melania debate. Pull this up. I spend way too much time in tinfoil hat. Well, you're searching on Twitter, so I don't know if maybe on Google. Anyway, it's Melania, I think, is very composed and poised. So it seems unlikely to me that she would just snap and be like, enough is enough, especially because it has slowed down. Like, I don't think people are going after her in recent times after this.
Pussy bow.
Yeah.
Really? That's what we're going to call that? I don't know.
Well, she didn't name it. There's different types of knots.
You're let down at that.
It's like, listen, I like to see vagina everywhere I can.
Well, I think it's named after like a cat's hands.
That
Can you look up the etymology? I think that's where it comes from. It's not about a vagina, Tom. My God. Get your mind. What? I'm serious. What do you mean?
We started this conversation based on a certain statement that Trump made about grabbing them in the...
Right, but that term wasn't originated by her.
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm sure the term wasn't a reference to
But are you
vagina.
saying she is so shrewd that she's like, I'm going to wear this thing commonly referred to as a pussy bow when I could have done 1,000 other knots as a comment on this whole situation?
Yes.
Damn.
or her
All right.
wardrobe
Well,
person.
you've got her mapped differently than me.
And it resembles the bows tied around the cat's necks.
Got it. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. Okay. Hey,
It could be
maybe.
a coincidence.
Maybe, yeah.
It could be a coincidence.
Maybe
But the
she's
point
just
is,
that
the
on
thing in the
point.
locker room talk, please look that up because that I think came from her. It is odd that she would say this either
Yes,
with or
it
without
feels
his
random.
permission. It doesn't feel, it feels out of character for her. It's the same thing with Usha's wedding ring. So there was one time she wasn't wearing her wedding ring and she's like, oops, I forgot it. I was washing dishes. Then she didn't wear it again after it became a huge thing. And I know that people are like, something's up with this broad. And
Yeah.
it turned out she was pregnant. When you're pregnant, you can't wear that wedding ring. Your hands are swollen. So when something like this happens, it always seems to me there's a piece of the puzzle that we're not seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
This
that
is
makes
out of
sense.
character for completely.
Yeah,
It's
and
certainly out of character for the administration.
according
Yeah,
to
there you
Michael
go.
Cohen's
Wow.
testimony, locker room talk defense was Melania's idea.
Wow.
I'm sworn under oath.
Let's go.
How do you rate the handling of Trump administration with the Epstein files and everything?
It is so. So here's the thing. I talked about this on with Kurt Metzger. I talked about it on Rogan. What's the thing that I can't wrap my head around is a lot of people who are like Epstein files smoking gun also think that every Democrat in the House spontaneously started caring about hurting children. Like they have these two contradictory ideas in their head simultaneously. I think that if there was anything really incriminating there, it would have been scrubbed a long time ago. I think a lot of things that people are reading to it aren't things that are necessarily there. And I'm hesitant that what is going to be released to the public is going to be enough to do this kind of cataclysmic damage that people seem to be hoping for.
I think that the way that people are running with it in their minds is way more cataclysmic than anything that's going to come out.
Right.
So the thing that's interesting, though, is that you have seen a much bigger response from other countries where it's like merely being in it, you're toast. Like that's
Right.
the end of your tenure. And we haven't had that same response in the US. And I think the one that probably stands out for a lot of people is Mr. Counter Fitzgerald. Why am I blanking on his name? E-commerce secretary. Or
Oh, yeah,
commerce
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Howard Lutnick.
Yeah.
So that one is like, meh, like you obviously lied and got caught in that lie, and yet there you are. Now they've clearly like sidelined him, and we don't hear from him very much anymore.
No, we didn't before either.
But,
Commerce Secretary's not a big deal.
he was pretty hot for a minute. Like
Was he?
yeah, at the beginning,
With
he
the
was giving
tariffs and
some
everything.
banger interviews.
Oh, the
and
tariffs.
stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So, but since then, and you want to talk about a time where the economy is like on the ropes right now, I would have expected to hear from him, but Besant eats up all of the time that I think would have been and was at the beginning of the administration shared between the two of them. So I think, anyway, conspiracy theory that they're hiding him a bit. So there is something that does feel more insular here in the U.S. that people are getting away with something here that they didn't get away with elsewhere.
I think the thing that's indisputable about the Epstein files is that powerful elites work together and don't care about how it looks to the layman. And the reason for that is a lot of these people aren't even accused of doing anything with Epstein. But what was clearly the case is that they were trying to become friends with him or were friends with him even after his arrest and all these things came out. So I think that shows the level of amorality there were to the. There's somebody named Michael Alec who was one of the club kids, and he ended up killing someone and he went to jail.
Oh, wait, I know this story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
one of his paintings because I saw it in a store and it looked like it said Malice, but it was M. Alec and whatever my mom got for my birthday. I visited him in jail. Point being, he was a murderer. He had jobs lined up for him when he was leaving jail. So it's the kind of thing where, like, you know, if you're someone I like, you get a blank check to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's really kind of, I've always said, and when I say this, no one disagrees. Hillary Clinton will always have more in common with Donald Trump than with some janitor who always voted Democrat his entire life.
Yeah, for
and when you
sure.
put it like that, everyone's like, oh, of course, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Like George Carlin says, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
That's a
Yeah, it's
banger.
really interesting. Because I've gotten wealthy, I have found myself in rooms that feel just extraordinarily foreign to me, where it's
yeah.
like, oh, there's a way of interfacing with the world that I just do not, I haven't been, I think the brain forms in certain ways when you're young that it's just never going to in adulthood. And so the way that I grew up was sort of middle class to lower middle class. And so forever and a day, the way that my brain interprets the world is from a world where my neighbors had cows. I didn't, but my neighbors did. So it's like to then find myself in these sort of high-powered, like New Yorkie lawyer plugged in, like
but
I do.
You're also new money.
Yes.
So you're trash to them.
Yes, certainly to an East Coast mentality
Yeah.
for sure. So, but that whole space just feels weird. You can just feel that there's a different way of going about the world.
Because they've been groomed and bred to this world. You're like a protein bar guy, like, oh, that's cute. You know what I mean? Like in their mindset.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's also, from the networking side of things, even from a new money, like West Coast guy, I'm still bad at it. So
What do you mean, really?
Yeah, epically. I'm surprised that you find that surprising.
I please continue. Go on. I'll do the Tom noise.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Say more. You always say that. Say more.
My audience is probably going to be bored to tears because they've heard this so many times, but I do not have whatever that genetic impulse is to seek outward. I do not do. So as soon as the camera stops rolling, I'm going to turn inward.
Okay.
And like if I'm having trouble falling asleep, I have a cue phrase that I use.
Okay.
And it will just set my imagination running, and then I'm going to fall asleep.
Are you going to pass out right now if I say
no,
it?
No, it doesn't work like that. But if I if I have free time, I don't take out my phone. I say the same phrase, and that's like whatever problem I'm trying to solve in Kaizen, I just set myself to that, and then I'll collapse inside of that.
Okay.
And so the right way to mentally map me is as a writer, not as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So that's just, I will go inside my own imagination, explore ideas, or solve problems.
You are someone who is interested in people. You're interested in ideas. So I would think at an event, you would find that one person and glom onto them. That's technique.
Exactly what happens.
Yeah, that's my technique.
That's a terrible networking strategy.
Why?
But then the real question is, how often do I find myself in those rooms? And the answer would be virtually never.
I only go to those rooms if I have an escape hatch.
I don't even think about that. I just never go to those rooms. It is literally my producer's biggest pain point. If the camera were on him, they will see him nodding, is that getting guests on the show becomes increasingly difficult because I just don't ever make time for people.
Oh, wow. Well, also, they confide in me how difficult you are off camera.
There's that.
Yeah.
I am a raging tyrant, you guys. It'll come out one day. Don't worry.
You're a modern day Amy Klobuchar.
Exactly. Nice. Thank you.
All right, moving on to this China hack. A hacker group called by the name of Flaming China breached the China National Supercomputing Center and exfiltrated up to 10 petabytes.
Petabytes.
Yes, I never even heard of like that many bytes.
I learned that
before.
word today. Yeah.
It is massive. To give you an idea, the entire Library of Congress is less than 1 petabyte. So this is like some egregious number more than what you would find if you downloaded all of that. It's absolutely massive. This really is China's worst nightmare, and it's now on sale on Telegram. A single hacker may have just pulled off what is the largest data theft in Chinese history. So the 10 petabytes that we're talking about of data that they snatched is now for sale to the highest bidder on the dark web. So the alleged target was Chinese National Supercomputing Center in Tianjin, and it's a centralized hub that provides computing infrastructure to more than 6,000 clients across China, including advanced science and defense agencies. The hacker, operating under the alias Flaming China, posted a sample of the database on Telegram in early February, claiming it contained over 10 petabytes of sensitive information, all kinds of crazy stuff. If you guys have seen the photos, it's like secret aircraft and airflow dynamics and all this stuff. The data allegedly includes classified defense documents, missile schematics, technical files, animated simulations of defense technology, and research spanning aerospace engineering, bioinformatics, and fusion simulation. Because some of the data center's 6,000 clients rely entirely on China's National Supercomputing Center, rather than maintaining their own supercomputing infrastructure, a single network breach like this effectively compromised thousands of downstream organizations in China simultaneously. And the crazy part is that the hacker used a method that wasn't even like sophisticated. This wasn't bleeding edge, super exploit, that you would expect him to have worked really hard on. The hacker just claimed to gain entry simply through a compromised VPN domain, and then he deployed a botnet that extracted the data slowly over 6 months completely undetected. And the hacker is now offering a limited preview for a few $1,000s if you want to see it. And if you want to buy the whole thing, you can do so for hundreds of thousands, payable in cryptocurrency, just to keep giving crypto a bad name.
A good name.
I suppose. Cybersecurity researchers say that only nation-state intelligence agencies would realistically have the capacity to deal with a data set of this size. But obviously it's pretty bad. Now, this could still be a hoax. I've tried to find anywhere that's saying that this isn't real. But so far, everybody's saying that the data looks real. So we'll see over time.
You just pay for it, you get like 50 billion copies of Goatsy.
Dude. Oh, God. Talk about a reference I have thankfully not thought of in a very long time.
How are you going to, like, if someone bought this, how are they going to deliver it? Like, how many memory sticks is that? Like literally, what is the mechanism?
Like a lot.
What, are they going to email it to me? Like, this is
They're
going to
definitely not going to email
Google
it to you.
Drive
Yeah.
link? Like, literally, how do you deliver
This
it?
attachment is too large.
Yeah, exactly. For the Earth.
You'd have to curry over hard drives or something.
Yeah. But how many?
For 10 petabytes, you can store a lot. Like we have hundreds of terabytes here as a company, and it would fit on this desk. So
Okay.
it's a lot.
But that,
It's a lot,
that
a lot.
courier is also leaving a trail.
Yes.
So I'm saying delivery is also going to be really
some of the logistics, I don't know. You could also you wouldn't use email, but you might be able to digitally. He digitally downloaded it, so it takes time. But
If his system is as simple as he claims, let's go with that for the time being. There's no way that the U.S. and other governments haven't done this.
Well, so if you had
They
said
should at least
that
buy
a
it.
week ago, I would say it's probably not true, just because the volume of things you have to try to attack can often be mind-numbing.
Right.
And so things like this, these zero-day exploits, it's entirely possible this has been out there for a long time, and just the sheer volume of these things to check you couldn't find. But the AI, the Claude Mythos, has found over 1,000, I think, exploits in like the most common software out there. So it's just finding them left, right, and center.
I saw an article where people were sending AI to hack systems, and they were finding them all over the place.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, what do we do now? Because this is a genie's out the bottle.
Yeah. So they launched, they're holding Mythos back, and instead they've launched Glasswing.
Okay.
So they're
Right,
basically
that's right,
going to
yeah,
use the abilities to use it as like a pen tester to go in against all these software and then help them plug all the holes. So at least they'll get to the point where it's like, okay, all this super common software, once it's battle tested by Mythos, then we'll launch it, because those guys will have repaired it, and then we're at least one level higher. But it shows that, one, Claude leaked their own code. Now,
Right.
how much of it got out? Would they be able to sort of reverse engineer this? But if you think about, like, DeepSeek has traditionally only been 3 to 6 months behind
Right.
whatever the bleeding edge model is. So it's very possible that you're 18 months from an open source version of Mythos that's that powerful at hacking. That's going to get wild fast.
Yeah,
I have to-
yesterday Scott Bessent and the federal chair Jerome Powell summoned Wall Street leaders to actually have an urgent meeting to talk about this very thing. We need to figure out our cybersecurity vulnerability.
So I have to put my zoology hat on again. Is it glasswing or is it glasswing? Because a glasswing is a type of insect, which is really cool. And are they naming it after the insect, or are they blowing that opportunity?
It's a great question. So
It's not it's a terrible question.
No. It's actually very interesting, because I was like, man, they're really highlighting the fragility of all this. And so I couldn't understand why they were doing glasswing, one word, and they have what looks like an insect wing.
Oh, okay.
So
Pull it up.
I'm guessing
what a glasswing
then
looks
that
like.
that's
Really cool.
exactly what this is.
Glasswing beetle.
No, it's a butterfly, or there's a butterfly relative, or they're predators, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, those are types of butterflies.
Now, that's not what their logo looks like at all.
Pull up a lacewing.
Now, again, a little bit of
Is this
trivia
their
here
logo?
for the Michael
Not a
Malice
butterfly,
fans in the
but
house.
Lacewing.
So Michael Malice at his house, I know
Is
because
that
I've seen it.
Is that what it looks like? The logo?
Has, it looks more like one of those wings. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. He has a lot of plants.
That's true.
And when you ask him the organizing principle of the plants, it is things that look like they are in pain.
That's my favorite type of plant.
Yeah.
And I send you some photos of
You
plants
have?
that
No,
are-
man. I
like-
find your interest in succulents and the other sort of deserty pain-induced plants very interesting.
It's very fun to look like plants who are Cenobites who are being tortured in some kind of
That
hell
is
dimension.
literally what your garden looks like.
Look up Phil McCracken cactus. It's a mutation of a cactus. That's the one I sent you, and it looks like it's suffering.
Let's see this. You're going to want to pull. Yep, there we go.
It looks like
No,
it's
thanks.
suffering.
I hate cactuses. Hate.
Why?
Because they are obviously designed to
Does that look
repel.
like it's in pain?
Yes. And it looks like it would put me in pain.
It would, yeah.
Yeah,
Why?
so
So you hate
no
them?
thanks.
Why?
No, I like soft, fluffy. Like if I'm gonna have plants, like a bougainvillea, that's my kind of plant. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Our next topic is something that I think you would enjoy, Mr. Malice. It is a California worker burned down an entire warehouse because they weren't paying him enough. Is this the definition of anarchy?
Oh man.
No.
I'll be so curious to know if you and I end up on the same page or if we argue about this one. This one riles me up big time.
Why? Why is it? I think it's just one data point. That's why I'm not getting riled up about it.
Yeah, so we are very, very far apart from each other on this. So let me give you guys all a breakdown if you don't know about it. So we just got a preview of our own modern French Revolution from where I'm sitting. This is the part I expect us to argue about. But this guy filmed himself burning down a 1.2 million square foot distribution center in California while saying on camera, all you had to do was pay us enough to live. So he's just going around lighting it all on fire. This building, a massive Kimberly-Clark distribution center, was burned to the ground. The blaze escalated to a 6-alarm fire within minutes. Around 175 firefighters from over a dozen agencies battled it through the night, but it was lost just completely to the ground. 29-year-old Kamel Abdul Karim filmed himself setting the fire and posted it to Instagram, which I still can't believe is true, but he did. You can call this a self-purchased one-way ticket to prison. This kid is going away. He walked through the warehouse lighting a whole bunch of stuff on fire with a lighter. You guys got to see it for yourselves and hear him for yourself. Let's play the clip. This is wild. Remember, he posted this himself. So this is him showing the warehouse as he's lighting the first
Should have
bits.
paid us enough to fucking live. You know, we may not get
feel
paid
like this
enough
should be
to
posted
fucking
on
live,
Rumble.
but these bitches dirt cheap.
So he just showed a lighter.
All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to fucking live.
And he's just looking at all the different things that he's already lit on fire. in
All
the
you had to do
facility.
was pay us enough to live.
All right, so he worked for NFI Industries, which is the third-party logistics contractor running the warehouse. And from what I can find, NFI pays warehouse workers about $18 an hour, which is about $37,000 a year. The bad news is that the average one-bedroom apartment in Ontario runs $2,000
this is
a
Canada?
month. No.
Okay.
Ontario, California.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Now, the problem is that when you have a catastrophically K-shaped economy, you're going to run into problems. And every elite class in history has had to learn the hard way that people will only put up with so much.
That's true.
So take the infamous French Revolution that saw a whole lot of people get separated from their heads. In 1789, French peasants were spending up to 90% of their income on bread. Harvests had failed, prices had spiked, the gap between what labor could produce and what labor could afford for themselves became absolutely obscene, which is exactly what we're starting to see now and here in the US. And the problem is that revolutions are a nightmare for all involved. People getting real romantic. This guy's real romantic about the idea of starting a revolution. And the guillotine never stops with the first enemy. The first to be guillotined were the aristocracy, for sure. But ultimately, the French Revolution consumed lawyers, journalists, priests, merchants. My
And bad
favorite,
people too.
yeah, not to mention, Pol Pot once killed people just for having glasses. That's always a fun reminder of these types of revolutions. Robespierre, the man who built the Reign of Terror, was executed by the same machine that he had been feeding for months. The movement that started with a genuine justified cry for economic suffering ended up collapsing into a bloodbath that killed tens of thousands of French citizens, most of them not nobility. And then into that chaos is exactly where Napoleon steps, how he comes to power. He doesn't try to calm everybody down, by the way. He tries to weaponize them. He understood that once people get a taste for blood, you're not going to be able to soothe them. So your job is to point them at something else, which is my exact fear here in the US. So he took, Napoleon, all that raw, blood-drunk revolutionary energy, all that rage with nowhere left to go, and he pointed it at Europe. And France spent the next 2 decades invading its neighbors, and some people quite far away, looting their treasuries, burning their cities, conscripting the young men, and somewhere between 3 and 6 million people ended up dying. The working class men who stormed the Bastille dreaming of bread and dignity ended up dying in Russian snowfields so that one man could be the emperor. Now, if Americans let their rage turn into something useless, it will all be for naught. Now, we have a very realistic picture of what's happening with the economy right now and how to fix it. But emotions are not going to be the thing that get the job done. And this is like my endless cry to people, is to understand, yes, there is a very toxic K-shaped economy. Yes, this is a real thing. And yes, if you keep pushing people in that direction, you will find they will push back, because if people can't make ends meet and things keep getting more expensive and billionaires keep getting wealthier, people will revolt. This is a tale as old as time. There is a reason that countries do not stay at a debt to GDP ratio of more than 130% for more than roughly 18 months, Japan being the only exception. And the reason they don't is things just become intolerable. We have just an algorithm running in our minds that just do not allow us to tolerate that kind of toxic inequality. And the problem with something like this is, by burning this warehouse down, he doesn't end up hurting the company that almost certainly has insurance. What he ends up hurting is all the people that were requiring the job there to make the money to live. And so now he ends up fucking over the very people he thinks he's helping, because he does not understand the economy. And so this is where I always derail, and I feel like I'm screaming into a void. And it really does make me think, I don't know that there's a way to snap people out of it.
Who wrote that stuff on the teleprompter? Was that you?
Me.
For naught. N-A-U-G-H-T.
Okay.
I'm just sorry. That's triggered my...
You really are. What was it? Oh, God, you gave me the way. I'm going to... Grok, please explain to him what people read perfectly in their
That's
mind.
true. That's why I was confused.
So I'll let you argue with Grok.
I also don't think... history doesn't... Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat, it rhymes.
Yeah.
I really hate the idea that, like, Trump... For example, people hate Trump. Trump's Hitler because he's an authoritarian dictator. I'm like, can he be Mussolini? Can he be Franco? No, everything.
Yeah.
And right now, every international conflict is both simultaneously the Iraq War and the Vietnam War and World War III, right? Not everything is the French Revolution. This isn't even the Arab Spring. So I think this kind of thing happens, you and I discussed earlier, all the time. No one's popping off as a result of this. And I think America historically, other than the very first revolution, we haven't, the Civil War would be, I guess, another example. We're not a revolution-friendly country.
What do you think stops that?
I don't know. That's a great question, but I don't think America is the kind of country where I think there's enough flexibility maybe in our politics that if things, we talked about this before, we were recording the Benefits Army, which is under Herbert Hoover. There are all these veterans who are like, we can't put food on the table, give us our pensions, whatever benefits now. They send in the tanks and they kind of take care of them in a very nefarious way. Point being, I think what would happen is if you did have this, remember Occupy, there was this huge movement. Obama used it very effectively, and it kind of, those people all vanished. So when you have this kind of fomenting underground and calls to violence, someone in our system or the media will exploit it or redirect it, historically speaking.
Okay, so I'm going to make my best pitch to you, and we'll see how far I get, and maybe you'll enlighten me, and I will finally see the path forward. But
also, I also want to say I am far more comfortable with revolution than you are. So I'm not even saying that it's as bad as you would say it is.
Right, for sure. So here's my take. All of that made sense before, and if you don't understand the cause and effect mechanism in the economy that is breaking right now, that is never broken historically, not during the Civil War, not any other time, but it is breaking now, and that's why we have a problem. And the reason that the Occupy movement, for instance, went away was because in fact, making it go away is the reason that we have a problem now that we're not going to be able to solve, and that thing is money printing.
Okay.
So what we did was we said, oh yeah, people are pissed because the banks got bailed out, but bailing out the banks actually does work, but it only works for so long. And when the economy is fine, then people are fine.
Sure.
What I'm saying is the economy is reaching a breaking point. It is in the next 10 years, it will get to the point where America will functionally default. It doesn't matter if they're going to claim default or not.
What does that mean?
So they will have to inflate the currency or actually just say, we're not paying you back.
Okay, sure.
And the second you say we're not paying you back, the one thing that they could try is if we isolate ourselves enough, we could say, we're just not paying back all the foreign people.
Sure,
Fuck you guys.
Right.
And we could try that. But most likely there will be some level of the Americans that are investing in the American economy are going to get hurt because they're going to say either we're only paying back 60 cents on the dollar or whatever. And that will be devastating. That will end the dollar as reserve currency status. That will force people to go into a level of austerity that we have not, no one living now in America has seen this kind of austerity.
Sure.
And so all of that at a time where the country is so politically divided, so tribalistic, you really are fighting over a smaller pie. And when you're fighting over a smaller pie and one half is like, you're going to give all my money to the trans, and the other half is like, you're going to give all my money to the billionaires, they are going to fight.
But you're taking it as a given that the American tribalism will continue. And there have been several times in history where things got bad and they became this huge national consensus. 1980, 1984, 1932, 1972. So even though it seems impossible now that everyone's going to come together and have this kind of 60-40 election or 60-40 perspective, it would have looked impossible for Trump to be elected president. So it's not at all a given that if shit hits or George W. Bush, who lost the popular vote to Al Gore and got 90% approval ratings in the wake of 9/11, which he obviously squandered. Point being, it's not at all a given that if shit hits the fan, that this division is going to be maintained. Because here's one example. You could have the Democrats being like, we're not talking about the trans stuff, as they have done in recent times, and become this kind of economic, we're going to be the party of jobs and putting food on the table. The Republicans ruined this, and we're not talking the culture war. We could talk about that in 4 years.
So if what you're saying is that they will actually solve the underlying mechanism, then I would say, okay, maybe. But the only path forward, because what I don't think people realize, and the part that's really hard to get people on board with, is what I'm saying is money has physics, economy has physics.
Correct.
We're now at the end of the physics. So the next thing is it does break. It's not like maybe it breaks. It does break. And
Okay.
so now it becomes a question of, given that barring a ahistoric growth rate coming from AI, which is possible, but barring that ahistoric thing, you're in a position where in the next 10 years, the self-reinforcing thing that will happen with the debt because of the interest will get to the point where America won't be like, should we default? It will default. So it will either soft default by hyperinflating the currency,
Okay.
or it will hard default by just saying we're not paying back the debt.
So when
And either is a catastrophe.
when I'm in a field where I don't know the lay of the land, I can only go by what historically I've seen. In the 1970s, Barry Goldwater, who was the Republican candidate for president in 1964 and lost in a huge landslide, wrote a book called The Coming Breakpoint. And the point is, we cannot afford our debt any longer, and America is going to collapse, blah, 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 blah. In 1980, Reagan comes in, and the debt explodes, right? So his prophecy didn't come true. There's a book called The Idea of Decline in Western History by Arthur Herman, which is one of the top 10 books I've ever read. Yep. And he goes, every generation, it's a catastrophe. So when I hear things like this, that like in 10 years it's all going to end, this is the kind of thing where we're told what I'm hearing, possibly incorrectly because I don't have the information, every 10 years we're told there's 10 years left of oil, and then things end up not happening in that way. Right. So this is such a bold prediction that it is hard for me, although I could be driving off a cliff, to kind of take it at face value. Because here's the other thing. When I was in college in the 90s, I was an intern at the Cato Institute, and they had a whole project saying Social Security is going to go bankrupt by 2010, and then old people won't have money. I don't even know what they did, but that did not end up happening.
Yeah. So
and Obamacare is going to collapse the healthcare system, and we're going to have socialized healthcare, and this is going to be by design. We heard this in 2010. That didn't end up happening too. It is not a good thing, Obamacare, but we do not have socialized healthcare yet.
Yeah. So I think you're approaching the problem in the exact right way, which is, if I don't know the field in general, let me look at historical examples. Right. It rhymes, it doesn't repeat, but I think that's the right way to do it. And so the good news is this is a knowable thing, not that your outcome will come true, but when you look at those moments and you just think about the money supply, you look at the debt load, those guys were, I don't know if they were lying or if they didn't understand the economy, but the reality is that what I'm doing is not saying, oh, the levees are going to break. I'm saying the water level is now like dripping over the edge because it's gotten that high. And all I'm saying is, at the rate that we're going now, the water level is going to keep rising. And so physics tell you the water will spill over.
Sure.
And because we're at the physics level, now I'm just like, well, there are things you can do to drain the water.
Sure.
And so if you start draining the water, reducing the debt, this won't happen.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't see the political will to stop that.
Okay.
And so when
Gotcha.
you've got the Democrats are spending money left, right, and center. You've got the Republicans spending money left, right, and center.
Sure.
And so if either party goes, hey, we're going to Margaret Thatcher this, we're going to go into austerity, it is what it is, you guys can complain as much as you want, but we are going to do it. Because honestly, if they just balance the budget, we don't have any more problems.
Or even just decrease significantly the deficit.
Yeah, the deficit probably, that might even be harder because we can get by with the deficit where it is right now, but you've got to stop making the deficit worse.
Right.
So if like a little bit of water is dribbling over into the danger zone and you say, we're going to make sure that the water level doesn't go up anymore, then I'm like, okay, great.
So this is something that I think everyone in the audience is going to think I'm completely insane, and I think you will not think I'm insane. Historically speaking, other countries, it is leftist parties that are in a position to put these austerity measures in, right? Because the same way as Nixon in China, Nixon, got elected to the Senate by calling his political opponent the Pink Lady, Helen Hagen Douglas calling her basically a communist. He had his bona fides. He took down Alger Hiss, found that he was a communist spy within the State Department, I believe. So for him to go to China and toast Mao, if it was anyone to the left, they would be destroyed because you're soft on communism. No one's going to accuse Nixon of being soft on communism. Reagan and Thatcher did the same thing with Gorbachev, where it's like they're on the right wing of the right wing party. There was no one to outflank them and say, you're not hard enough against communism. So when leftists get into office, and this austerity thing happened. This happened in Canada, I think, with Trudeau's dad. He did it back in the day. They are often in a position to implement these austerity measures and sell it to their people. We saw this happen in the 90s where Bill Clinton didn't want to balance the budget, but he did balance the budget. He was forced to do it. So and I know looking at the Democratic Party now, this sounds like I'm completely lost my mind.
It just sounds unlikely.
It is, right.
Your argumentation is very logical.
I completely agree. It sounds unlikely, but at the same time, when there's self-preservation and there's what you want to do to further your party's control and power. So people have these people on the right have these two completely contradictory views of the Democratic Party, and people on the left about the Republican Party, which is one is they're completely ideologues and they'll destroy the country. They don't care. And also they're completely soulless and corrupt and will do or say anything to maintain their hold on power. These are not, you can't be both. And I think there's wings of one and wings of the other. But I think this wing, the corporate hack wing, is a lot stronger than the Democratic Party than people realize. The Republicans didn't shut the squad up. That was Pelosi. It wasn't the Republicans who stopped Bernie Sanders. That was the Biden machine and the Hillary machine. So that wing of the Democratic Party is quite strong. And they are a lot more attuned to business interests than one would think, given the rhetoric.
Yeah, I mean, I don't argue a single fact of that. I still don't see anybody that's actually going to implement austerity measures. And history tells us that every empire that has found themselves in the position that we're in right now, they don't make it. And they do implode and they lose their status either by war. So this
Sure.
is what happened to the UK, and they ended up having to hand the baton to us.
Sure.
So that would look like us handing the baton to China. And given that we're flirting with World War III right now, like there's a very logical conclusion to be drawn. America's overextended.
That's true.
We try to fight this crazy war on like
Agreed.
a gazillion fronts. And then we just find ourselves, we've got so much debt that we don't like have some spectacular supernova implosion. It's just like the UK. We just have to retreat back to our
Right.
sphere of influence. We do what we can.
Right.
We get out of the rest of the world.
Which would be great,
And
my opinion.
from there, I don't think there's any other option. And then from there, we lose power because the rest of the world, somebody else, probably gold for now, is going to take over being the reserve currency, which means that we can't deficit spend anymore. There will be very little to no appetite for our debt. And so at that point, you're forced into those fiscal measures. So I am not predicting a crazy, like everybody's dying thing. I'm saying that either we'll have a revolution, civil war, or the war that we're already in just continues to escalate to the point where at the end of it, we're so fatigued and so broke, the world just looks completely different.
Well, why couldn't you have an FDR kind of thing?
Well, from what I know about FDR needed the ability to print.
Right.
And we don't have that ability anymore.
Okay, so because the people won't want the money because we're not going to be able to sell our dollars because no one's going to want to invest.
No
in
one
them.
will buy the debt.
I think at a certain, I don't think we're anywhere close to the point where the American dollar is something that is regarded as a bad investment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mathematically just isn't true. So you are right now, if you don't grow in 10 years, it would be economic suicide. Again, this assumes static.
Right.
But 10 years from now, static, it would be suicide to invest in the US dollar.
Okay.
Now, we'll see where we are in 10 years because this assumes nobody adjusts. But right now, nobody is adjusting. In fact, they're going in the wrong direction. We're stacking debt again now faster.
I'm opposed to government completely. I also just think that America is a lot smarter and stronger than that. And I think 10 years to say the dollar's going to not be a stable source of investment, it's hard for me to see that, even if it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I search and search and search for the mechanism. And right now, given current politicians' behaviors, there is only one, and that's growth.
Correct.
And right now, staring at a 0.5% growth in GDP when we were expecting a 2.2, which was already a catastrophic decline, and we're at war, sort of ceasefire-y, but we'll see. That's where I'm like,
and there's
none of these are good signs.
And at the moment, there's no restraint. There's no appetite for restraint of any kind in Washington on the budget. I agree with that completely.
So you have a base assumption that says we will course correct. We have course corrected every time before. You, Michael Malice, are not denying that a course correction will be required. You're just
no. There will be some course.
Confident.
There will be. I'm not supremely confident. I'm saying there will be some kind of course correction, and I'm just saying things can go bad without going revolution catastrophe.
Sure. It does not violate the laws of physics for that to happen. If you consider World War II, okay, we made it out.
No, I don't consider World War II.
Because
That's catastrophe.
One more time, other than Japan, every time a country has spent more than 18 months at over 130 debt to GDP, and Japan, that whole setup is so unique, and we do not match it. It's ended in bloodshed every time.
All right. We got to move on. We got to hit one more topic before we go super chat and one more time. Canada just dropped a new acronym. We have to talk about it.
I love that you think we have to cover this.
We have to. I know. Yeah, we have to.
Deal with the ongoing genocide of MMIW G2SLGBTQQIA+. This is abhorrent. Deal with the ongoing genocide of MMIW G2SLGBTQQIA+.
Wait, can you guess what that stands for? Can I look?
I tried. I actually
let me see if I can do it. Okay, let me see if I can do it. Okay.
Hold
on. Let's start from the beginning. We know at the end is queer, questioning, intersex, asexual.
You already knew one of the Qs. I didn't know what the second one was.
It's queer and questioning.
Yeah, I knew queer. I didn't know questioning.
LGBT we all know. 2S is two-spirit, which is the native. So MM, is that an I in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
MMIWG.
Yes.
Is it men who have sex with men? Is that the MM?
No, because you would need a W.
Wait,
Did you already know it though? Because I know what it is now. But
don't tell us.
Is
Is each of the M's a different thing?
No.
No, it's kind of the same thing.
What do you mean?
So unless
wait, don't give it away yet.
Well, I was just gonna say a couple of these letters are all in the same word.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, though, they are all different words.
Yeah.
No,
they are part of a phrase. Trust me, I know what they are.
I feel like we should clarify that it's not just sexual identity, though.
You can't give this shit away.
Well, I feel
You're
like
very bad at this game, Ryan. Ryan is terrible at this game because part of the punchline is going to be that those first letters are. It's heartbreaking. Oh my God, I can't believe it exists. But that it's getting mixed together with sexual identification.
What's the G? Give me the G.
Girls.
I'll let y'all guess because I threw it off.
The G is girls.
Women, men.
You know, men isn't in there at all.
Okay, so women and girls.
Yes.
Intersex is the I. Is the I though? Isn't it?
No. You already got that one.
Yes, yeah, so it's not. So it's women, girls.
Think of an identity.
If you get there, I will have a level of shock. Chat, is anybody in chat? Do you guys get this? No, but now you're getting close.
Yeah.
MMI.
If it's not Inuit, but you're on the right track.
It's first person.
What would the I be? Yes, but there's another word for it.
Indian?
Oh, you're so close.
Indigenous.
There you go.
And what's the
missing and murdered indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, and asexual people.
Can you please play that clip that I sent you? It's right under this. This video was too amazing. So wherever you got that one from,
to be fair, not
right below
just
it.
because a lot of people are being murdered doesn't make it a genocide.
Also
People
true.
online have been mocking the MMIW G2S LGBTQIA+ acronym, making out that it's some kind of joke. MMIW G2S LGBTQIA+ was simply an upgrade from LGBTQIA+ in order to be more inclusive to missing people in Indigenous communities. Comparing MMIW G2S LGBTQIA+ to a strong password or the next sequel in the Call of Duty franchise is not only grossly offensive, but deeply disrespectful to those communities who are simply asking for us to adjust our language and broaden the LGBTQIA+ acronym.
I love how many times he does it.
It also doesn't include pansexual.
That's an outrage. That is an outrage.
But
I think they're supposed to be rounded up in the plus.
No, they're not. The plus is something else.
I think they're encompassed by the B, because I think bisexual.
No. Do not step on this landmine.
He's going to take it from you.
That's a landmine, because the whole point is, I think bisexual, in this ethos, bisexual people don't sleep with trans people, at least for the time being. They're allowed to. And pansexual means bisexual, including trans. I think that's
I don't
that's
think I
the
knew
set
that
theory.
definition.
I think that's a set theory.
I mean, I've always just heard the difference is pansexual is just I don't even think about gender. But
there is a difference.
But to me, that doesn't mean like a bisexual wouldn't sleep with a trans person.
But a bisexual might not sleep with a gender fluid person or a non-binary person.
And this stuff gets hard to track.
Is non-binary even there? Non-binary is not even there.
That's more gender identity.
That's either Q or the plus.
Yeah.
No, the Q is queer and the Q is questioning.
But queer, doesn't it include like...
You could be queer and not be non-binary.
Well, non-binary is gender.
Right, and queer, right.
Yeah.
Wow, this is getting specific. I'm gonna need to.
But that's I think that's
Claude at this point.
That's where the hypocrisy of this comes to, is because like you're adding in murdered and missing Indigenous women, but you're leaving out people with other sexual identities in the sexual identity.
Or how about murdered and missing boys? Like
they don't
that's,
count. They don't
that's kind
count.
of a problem.
How dare you? How dare you?
Do you know Dave Landau?
I know the name.
He's a comedian. He's got this great joke about when he was a kid, you know, some old man came up to him, and this is a true story, and offered him candy to go in his van, and he's like, I'm lucky it was just like Butterfingers, because if he had Twix, I'd be face down in a river.
Jesus. That's amazing.
That's good. But yeah, what's the commentary on this? Is this just another episode of suicidal empathy? Are we missing the plot at this point?
This to me, this is people that have lost the plot. So this is going back to some people just need to be chased by lions.
Wait, what's
like
the point,
we are going to have
just
a
to
thing that
those
we care about
in that community in large.
Okay.
I think we all have like this innate need to protect, to push back, to create boundaries. And so when people don't have anything that's like for real, like this is some life and death shit, you start really getting out there on the abstraction layer.
Tom Bilyeu, my hero. I had this exact same question to Brett Weinstein, who was an evolutionary biologist or psychologist. I'm like, here's my theory or hypothesis. One's the wrong term, one's the right one. He yelled at me. I said, my hypothesis / theory is that capitalism, and I edited a book called The Paleo Manifesto. And the paleo worldview is that our technology advanced faster than biology, so there's a mismatch, right? So I thought, okay, our brains are wired as cavemen or whatever for resource scarcity. What happens when you have shelter and food, everything available? The brain doesn't shut off. It starts looking for problems where there are none, because that is hardwired. And Brett said, you're exactly correct. And this is what you're seeing.
Yeah, 100%. This is one of the first things I noticed in entrepreneurship was that some people they had no real threat to deal with, and they started acting very strange. And I was just like, what is going on? So yeah, I think this is that at scale. Like at some point also, it is a self-obsession. Like being able to get outside of your own head is a very wise thing to do, and to see yourself as, you know, being in like, these people have to suffer me, if you see what I mean. And so not wanting to be as torturous on somebody in terms of how they think about you.
It could even be simpler that now this lady has a bigger bureaucracy and a bigger budget.
Jesus Christ,
and it's like, look, hey, I'm the woman who started talking about this. Give me money, give me staff. I'm going to run for higher office.
Yeah,
so it's as cynical as that.
I'm in the oppression Olympics and all that stuff. It's super wild that people look for that kind of stuff. We want the credibility, we want status, and if we're going to get status by being a victim, then so be it. I think that is terrible. As a PSA, boys and girls, please, everybody's going to be victim to something at some point. don't make that your identity. Find some way out of that. Think about, I can do something, change something, and get a different result.
And if they want to talk about murder, I think the third leading, can you look this up, leading cause of death in Canada is medically assisted suicide murder right now. Wild. So she's worried about people being murdered, maybe the ones in the hospital by the doctors.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, per their worldview, it's going to be disproportionately people who are LGBTQ, blah, 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 blah. Because the point is, allegedly, they're so oppressed, they're going to have high rates of suicide and depression. So maybe you should worry about all of those people who are being driven in a suicidal direction.
Yeah, I haven't fact-checked this enough to see if this is backed up, but there was a recent study that came out of Finland, I think, where they followed trans people, and they had a control group, so they didn't receive any treatment, and then ones that did. And their rates of suicidal ideation skyrocketed post surgery. Because our cultures don't talk about trade-offs. So the idea, like, even if you're a female who's taking after menopause estrogen, there's going to be some cost to it. If you're a male you have less testosterone, take testosterone, there's going to be some trade-off. But the argument for trans people is, if you do this, there's no cost to it. Yeah. And it's just like, it makes no sense on a biological level. You're not going to have side effects from taking hormones. Hormones change the body, and they're not being prepped for this. Yeah.
And that's the
especially if you have
version.
surgery, like, bro, that's rough. That is rough.
And also, you're not going to literally be a female.
Yeah. Yeah, that part caught me off guard. I didn't realize that was the argumentation. Was that no, if you are trans, you are literally the other gender.
Right.
I was like, wait, what?
Or I'd be perceived that way.
Yeah. Even the perceived thing, some people really can. Like, there are some people that can pass like good and proper.
Sure, but plenty of them can't.
Yes, probably the majority.
Right. So then what? You're being
But
told.
my thing is, even if you pass, if your internal identity goes all the way to I am that, that's where I get lost.
Sure, but the point is, in terms of the depression, if you're told if you get these surgeries, you'll be able to live the life as a female, and that is not true, you ran out of options. If you aren't going on the knife, that's your last resort.
I'm also just worried about complications, man.
I mean, I'm trying to steelman this as much as possible.
Yeah,
but
like, I've heard horror stories about people, like the women who take the trans women, so they invert the penis, male to female, but they'll get like hairs that are still growing.
Of course, because the shaft.
Like, oh God.
And they have to sit on I know we have kids watching, but they have to dilate for the rest of their lives, or it seals up because of a wound.
So wild. Yeah, that's rough.
One of the leading causes, I haven't gotten an actual ranking. I only was able to pull up an old one from like 2022, but
one of the leading causes of what?
Death in Canada, assisted suicide. They just reached the milestone of 100,000.
Whoa!
100,000 dead by the practice.
Wow. That escalated quickly.
You have to talk to Kelsey Sharon about this. She's been talking about this all the time.
That's wild, man.
It's coming here.
We got one more super chat. And
let's hear it, Ryan.
Awesome. From Patrick Wrightson. Favorite guest of the show, hands down. Glad you're here this morning, Mr. Malice. Good morning, guys, and happy Friday. Love you all.
Well, thank you. We love you right back. And it has been wonderful having you on the show. It's also been fun to get to know you, to do some meals. You are one of the only people that I actually make non-professional time for.
You are one of 3 people I've met who I completely misjudged when I met you and have only continued to impress me.
Wow. It's very kind. I appreciate that.
It's the truth.
Awesome. Boys and girls, his graphic novel is coming out very soon, Unwanted. Go and pre-order right now, unwantedbook.com. I am telling you, if you at all are interested in somebody that can handle incredible ideas, but done in a narrative way that will be, I'm sure, very surprising and very impactful, this is the book for you. And I really want to see him continue down this vein, as I'm such a believer in the art form. And also, by the way, the Rippaverse, check it out. This is a guy that started this himself. He was a commentator, got sick of just being a commentator. Yep. And so he started this whole comic book publishing house in a really modern and interesting way. And the fact that he has teamed up with Michael says a lot about where these guys are headed. So if you're at all inclined, please do that. I'm going to be supporting this. I will guarantee I'm taking it as soon as we get off air here to the stretch goal of 15,000. So enjoy your stickers on my behalf, everybody. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Very much a pleasure. We will see you again on Monday. All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Later.